At Taylor Field in Regina, a full house awaits a former favorite son. Kent Austin comes home today. This time he's the enemy as a member of the BC Lions. In Saskatchewan, football players are elevated to hero status, and Austin was once one of the biggest. He could do no wrong as the darling of those who burst with Rider pride. He won the hearts of the CFL's most loyal fans and earned his place in Rider history as one of only 2 quarterbacks to deliver the CFL's holy grail to Saskatchewan. But the marriage quickly went bad. In a bitter separation, Austin moved west. There he has the BC Lions thinking of first place. Today, he's journeyed back to Regina, hoping for vindication in the place he used to call home. In the process, Austin would like to hurt his old team's playoff chances. Today, Taylor Field will be the Lions' den as the fans await public enemy number 1. At Taylor Field in Regina, they're expecting one of the largest crowds of the season today for Kent Austin's homecoming party. He used to play to rave reviews here, but today the stands will be full of critics, and they won't be kind to Austin, who didn't leave Regina on the best of terms. Welcome now to Taylor Field. I'm Scott Oak. You know, it's awfully hard for fans anywhere to accept a player doesn't want to be in their city, and Kent Austin wanted out of Regina, so he knows better than to expect anything close to a warm welcome here today. In a few minutes, when he makes this brief walk onto the playing surface at Taylor Field, this crowd is going to erupt, and they won't be cheering the way they did for Austin's 7 years as a member of the Riders. He warmed up earlier, and how strange he must have felt to be on this field as a member of the opposition. Austin is playing it cool, and he says the crowd won't affect him today, but his coach, Dave Ritchie, admits to some concern. He says it's going to be awfully important for Austin to complete a couple of passes early so as to take this crowd out of the game, if that is possible. All the hype surrounding this game is built around Kent Austin's return to Taylor Field, but the stakes are much higher than his personal performance. Saskatchewan's single-point loss at BC Place last week has the Riders 1 point out of the final playoff spot in the West Division, so they're pretty much in a must-win situation. And in a subplot, if you will, the Riders look to a quarterback displaced a few years ago by Kent Austin to deliver the win. Tom Burgess was dealt away from Saskatchewan in 1990 when the Riders committed themselves to Kent Austin as their starting quarterback. So there are all kinds of stories to cover at Taylor Field today, and we're hopeful that the 2 men in the booth, James Curry and Don Whitman, can get them all in 3 hours. Gentlemen?
Well, it may be a tough task, Scott. All the pregame hype has, of course, revolved around the return of Kent Austin to Taylor Field. But I think Saskatchewan coach Ray Yauch put it into perspective, James, when he said we have to remember we're playing the BC Lions, not Kent Austin.
They are playing the BC Lions, Don. This is a team that 3 weeks ago had a playoff spot almost assured, and they've slipped in the past couple of weeks, and they're trailing Sacramento by 1 point, and they desperately need a victory here in this return match at Taylor Field against BC.
Prior to the start of the year, Ray Yauch told me that his team would be, he would be happy if his team came up with 10 wins, and they may have a difficult time reaching that objective this season, chasing Sacramento for the final playoff position. Over on the BC side, Corey Philpott, 10 games into the season, looked as though he might shatter Willie Burton's rushing record. In recent games, he's had problems staying in the lineup.
One of the things that often happen with young runners, they hit the wall, and a lot of times they'll read their own press clippings, and that might have happened to Corey Philpott, but since he's back in the lineup, he can add that added spark to BC's offense once again.
And the BC Lions feel that if Saskatchewan plays the same type of defense today that they did last week at BC Place Stadium, they'll be able to run the ball this afternoon. Scott?
Well, Don, can you come home again? Kent Austin's going to find out in a few minutes when he leads the BC Lions onto Taylor Field. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC returns to Regina in just a moment. Welcome back. Just a few minutes ago, Kent Austin took Taylor Field to predictable response. Yes, in Saskatchewan, they don't easily forgive players who sever their ties with Rider pride as Austin did. Well, in Regina today, it's a blustery fall day. Dom will call it home field advantage for the Riders, and we're set for kickoff.
Home field advantage for the Riders. The temperature 14 degrees. It's milder than it was yesterday, but the wind has increased in velocity. And a former member of the BC Lions, Paul McCallum, who was with the team last week, kicks off to Spencer McLennan. And McLennan is tripped up as he gets to the 30-yard line. David Pitcher is the man who got up there to bring McLennan down. That is a 21-yard run back after a 66-yard kickoff. So Kent Austin, who this year has thrown 20 touchdown passes and has been intercepted 22 times, will put the BC offense into action from his own 31-yard line. And the predictable chorus of boos rains down from the stands here at Taylor Field in Regina. Austin fakes the draw play inside, looks out into the flat, and it was almost picked off by Anthony Drawhorn, intended for Ray Alexander.
Well, a big emotional start here at Taylor Field for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Ken Austin knew that he was going to come out to this chorus of boos and mixed emotions from the fans, and it's very important for him to get off to a good early start, Don.
I don't think there was much mixed about the emotion of the fans, James. I think it was very anti-Kent Austin, and it continues on 2nd and 10 from the 31. 3 receivers wide right from the shotgun. Austin is in trouble, and down he goes. Brant Robinson is credited with sacking Kent Austin, to the delight of this capacity crowd at Taylor Field.
That was a sack that was created by the defensive line. Gary Lewis got a tremendous start. Gary Lewis got a great jump. He had an outside release on Jamie Terrace. He flushed Kent Austin back in the pocket. He made him pull up. And you see the pressure coming from the backside from Robinson to get the sack. That's a team sack, but Gary Lewis created that initially.
Ulmer and Saunders are back for this 3rd down punt. Caravat is kicked into the wind, is fielded by Ulmer at his own 52-yard line. Ulmer runs into one of his own men, and that collision results in Ulmer bouncing back, and he goes down at the 53. A 34-yard punt, only 2 yards on the return, as Tom Burgess, who has only managed 11 touchdown passes this season with 13 interceptions, having one of his poorest seasons as far as touchdown passes go since his first 2 years in the CFL, getting a 2nd straight starting assignment. 1st and 10, they spot the ball at the 54. They hand off to Mike Saunders, and Saunders got to the line of scrimmage and not much further. He was thrown back by Dave Chaters.
Well, that time the tackle was made by Andrew Stewart, but Burgess, this is his 10th start of the season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Came back over in that 3-team deal from Ottawa, BC, and Saskatchewan, and he ended up back here where he was part of that '89 Grey Cup team, and he is hoping to be able to duplicate that. That team was 9-9 on that year, and this team is just a little above 500 itself.
Last year, the Riders were 8-6 at this point in the season. Right now, they are 7-7. Burgess is in trouble. He gets away, and Burgess is able to throw. It's intercepted. Picked off by Enos Jackson. And he goes down at his own 46-yard line. A key turnover for the BC Lions, and the Lions have their 27th interception of the season.
Enos Jackson with his 4th interception on the season, playing that zone coverage. Tommy Burgess was flushed out of the pocket by Virgil Robinson. He stepped up. He thought he had an open man in Ray Elgard crossing, but Enos Jackson, being a crafty old veteran, came underneath, picked that off, and brought it back out to the 46-yard line for the Lions.
1st and 10, BC from their own 46. The toss to Corey Philpott. Philpott tried to get to the outside, and Ron Getz made the tackle. The ball came loose, and Ray Alexander was able to come up with it. This is the way the Lions line up offensively.
Darren Flutie, Don, having an all-star type season, one of his most productive years in the CFL.
Flutie this year will have his best year ever. He is currently 3rd in pass receiving in the CFL. Out of the shotgun, it's 2nd and 6 for the Lions. 3 receivers wide to the right. Austin tried to dump it off for Philpott, incomplete. So again, it's 2 and out for Kent Austin and the BC Lions.
One of the things that caused a lot of problems for Kent Austin last week was Glenn Suter coming from his free safety position. That time, Suter lined up as an inside linebacker, got a clear shot at Austin as he came between the guard center gap, flushed him out of the pocket, and it forced him to throw the ball quicker than what he'd like to Corey Philpott.
I'm sure this is not the type of return that Kent Austin anticipated in his first game back at Taylor Field. Julio Caravata again punting into the wind. Saunders and Ulmer are standing at the 30 and 35-yard line. It's a low snap, a bad snap. Caravata has to down it in the presence of Gary Suter back at the 27-yard line. Well, it was a bad snap that deprived the Roughriders of a possible field goal, a game-winning field goal last week, and now it's a bad snap that puts Saskatchewan into early scoring position. Was racing in trying to pick it up, but Caravata got back there first.
Don, I actually think that was a fake punt attempt, because if you saw how the ball came out and Philpott made an attempt to go after the ball, they had a mix-up because they had a fake on that play and it just went bad, and Saskatchewan came up with great field position.
Narcisse is the man that Burgess was looking for on the sidelines. There's a penalty flag.
We're going to get Les Brown here with an illegal chuck downfield. He made contact with Donald Narcisse, and the official caught him on it.
Bud Steen is the referee this afternoon.
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver. British Columbia 0-0. It's first down.
Les Brown, the all-time interception leader in the CFL, 86 on his career, is flagged for pass interference.
Well, working against Donald Narcisse, you're going to have your hands full. 122 consecutive games of making a reception, and that time you saw the contact from Les Brown to drive him out of bounds, and the official right on top of the play.
First and 10 Saskatchewan. They are at the BC 18-yard line. Burgess dumps it off to Boyko, and Boyko takes it down close to the 10. Les Brown came up to make the tackle. Boyko was a key man in the Saskatchewan passing attack last week. This is the way the Riders line up offensively. Albert Turner is listed as the wideout in the Saskatchewan passing attack, but don't be surprised if the Riders move him into a slot position during the course of the game.
Don, he didn't have a reception in his first game as a Rider, but he has such exciting speed that he can run past people, and the coaching staff is very excited about that, and they hope that he can accomplish that today.
Saunders on the second down play is caught by Chaters and prevented from picking up a first down. He had to get to the 8-yard line. Ray York looks on to see just where the ball is going to be spotted before making a decision, and he is going to send out the field goal unit.
Well, it's very critical here, and you're going to get McCallum his first game back against his former teammates. Monday, he was a member of the BC Lions, and today he's kicking for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But you need all the points that you can muster in a game like this. This is an interconference game, so all points are very critical, and you don't want to pass up on an opportunity to get 3 right here.
Paul McCallum was approached by the Riders last week to play with the green and white, but he had been in all the preparations for the game on behalf of the BC Lions, so he declined the opportunity, but he accepted the chance to join the Riders for this game. And McCallum, against his former teammate, splits the uprights, and the Riders lead it by a score of 3-0 with 9:42 remaining in the opening quarter. Scott?
Well, Don, the Saskatchewan Roughriders surely are hoping that Kent Austin's homecoming party does not get out of hand. They've posted about half a dozen security personnel along the back of the BC Lions bench to guard against anything being thrown towards the Lions bench. Dave Ritchie told us yesterday that if there are any projectiles thrown towards any of his players, he'll take his team off the field immediately. He informed referee Bud Steen of the same moments before this game. And so far, we should say that Rider fans have been very well behaved. All they've used so far are their voices, and we know they have enough class not to throw anything towards the Lions bench today. Don?
Well, I think all that is an unwarranted thing here in Saskatchewan. These are probably the greatest fans in the CFL. And, you know, even though Ken Austin left under unkindly terms with the city and the fans, I think they came out here to see a great football game, and they came to see the Saskatchewan Roughriders stop Ken Austin, not the fans stop Ken Austin.
Well, there were suggestions on one of the local radio stations that maybe the fans should show up with eggs and pelt Kent Austin, but fortunately no one has decided to follow that bit of advice. An injured member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders resulting in a delay, and Miller is the player who is down.
Peter Miller, reserve linebacker, got his leg caught in that melee on that field goal attempt. He's one of the wing guys, and a lot of times those guys will spread their legs very wide and try to close down those lanes, and you'll get players tripping over your legs, and that looked like what happened to Miller on that play.
He is having some difficulty making his way off to the Saskatchewan bench.
You know, I really admire Ivan Gutfrin, the trainer of Saskatchewan, walking around in shorts, braving the weather here at Taylor Field.
It's not that bad a day, James. 14 degrees is the temperature.
You got your hands in your pocket. No, it is a very nice day here at Taylor Field for football. This time of the year, you never know what type of weather to expect. You can walk in here and a snowstorm could be coming through.
There is a forecast of possible rain later in the day. Hopefully it will hold off. First and 10 BC from the 35. Kent Austin would like to silence the crowd, but he has to complete a pass if he's going to do that. And as he overthrows Yo Murphy, the chorus of boos continues to rain down on him.
One of the things coming into this game and the game plan, Coach Ray Yock and Ken Austin for the past 3 years have sit together in meetings and gone against each other in head-to-head confrontations. And in the practice schemes that were set up, it was Ray Yock designing the opposing defenses that Ken Austin had to work against. So if anyone knows what's going on in Ken Austin's mind, Ray Yock does.
Austin still looking to complete his first pass of this football game, operating out of the shotgun. And he is going to get a time count violation.
Number 7 British Columbia.
The Riders have really been moving their defensive alignment around, trying to confuse Kent Austin, and now there is an injured member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Vincent Donaldson goes down on one knee, and he is going to be replaced by Dallas Raisavi.
Well, Donaldson was the nickel back in the defensive scheme of things for Saskatchewan. What they wanted to do was load up the inside part of that zone defense and force Ken Austin to throw to the outside. Last week at BC Place, he only completed 4 passes to his wideouts. They figure if he's going to beat us, he has to do it throwing to the wide side of the field.
The Lions are back at their own 30, 2nd and 15. Austin swings it out to Philpott, and Philpott takes it up to the 39, where he's stopped by Bobby Jurison. Jurison is the Riders' all-time sack leader. He has 110 coming into this game. He leads the team this year with 9.
And that's the type of pass, Don, that Saskatchewan doesn't mind a Ken Austin throwing. They will take away the deep inside routes, and you got 2nd and 15. Throw the 5-yard dump pass to Corey Philpott, because of the pursuit of the defense will get there before he can cover the extra 10 to pick up the first down.
Saunders and Elmer are back for this 3rd down punt by Julio Caravata. And into the wind. This is a pretty good kick. It's taken by Saunders at the 37-yard line. He breaks a couple of tackles and dances his way up to the 52.
Don, emotions will play so much a part of this game this afternoon for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And anytime you can get a decent gain such as Mike Saunders did on that punt return, you're going to get a big crowd noise here.
This is the only time in the CFL schedule for 1994 that there has not been a game on Friday night or earlier in the week. Game 2 of this weekend has Winnipeg at Las Vegas tonight, and tomorrow Sacramento at Shreveport, Calgary at Hamilton, a game you'll see on CBC television, Baltimore at Edmonton, and Toronto at Ottawa. Quickly for Ray Algard, he can't hang on.
One of the plays that has made the Saskatchewan offense so successful over the past years, that's a very catchable ball, and normally Ray Algard will make this reception. It's the hot release that Tom Burgess recognized. He got the ball to Ray Algard. He saw the linebacker Newby coming over, took his eyes off the ball possibly, and dropped it. Not a Ray Algard type play.
Now the career leader in receptions with 748 and 12,075 yards. Hasn't lasted as long as that by dropping passes of that nature. The full blitz was coming, and quarterback Tom Burgess got the throw away, but it fell short of Mike Saunders, the intended receiver.
Trying to set up the screen play to Saunders, and that time, when you let the defensive line go, you expect for the back to be in a spot. The blitz was coming, the screen was there, Newby came untouched and got to Burgess probably a half step before Burgess expected to throw the football.
First punt of Brent Matich in this football game, kicking with the wind from his own 38-yard line. Not a good kick. He hit it off the side of his foot, and McLennan takes it on the sidelines, but has nowhere to go as he's wrapped up by Ron Getz. 7:21 remaining in the opening quarter. The Riders leading by 3.
At Taylor Field today, and the Riders lead by 3. Here's the kind of hype surrounding Kent Austin's return to Taylor Field. The Leader Post, the paper with which Austin's been feuding, ran the results of a poll today, a poll that concludes that Austin is the most unpopular sports figure amongst readers of the paper. It gives Austin the dubious distinction by a long shot over Deion Sanders, whom, if I'm not mistaken, never asked out of Regina. The most popular, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, also by a long shot, but this week, all over the front page of the paper, stuff like this, Don, and it's representative of the atmosphere surrounding Austin's return to Taylor Field.
Yes, and not really an auspicious start for Kent Austin, as he has completed just 1 pass in 4 attempts. That toss to Corey Philpott. What I found interesting, James, is that Wayne Gretzky was the most popular athlete among readers of the Leader Post, but he also made the most unpopular list. I think he was about number 7 on the most unpopular list.
Well, he never asked to play here either, so probably fueled a few fires right there.
2nd and 7. Austin looks for Mike Trevathan, and he was being covered by Joseph. And again, it's 2 and out for the Saskatchewan, or for the BC Lions.
Don, one of the things in BC Place last week, Kent Austin wasn't touched often by the Saskatchewan defensive front. He's been sacked already in the game. This time he's had a lot of pressure here in the first quarter. This last series, Bobby Jurison got very close, as we see Austin right here going back, trying to find a receiver, being forced up in the pocket. Librad Robinson along with Bobby Jurison once again putting the pressure on Kent Austin.
Again, Saunders and Elmer are back for this 3rd down punt by Julio Caravata. Penalty flag on the play. Saunders will field it at the 47-yard line, and he's downed as he crosses midfield into BC territory. This could be a holding call on the punt by the BC Lions.
Brian Ford he just mugged Dallas Rice Savage as he tried to come off the corner from the left side. He just wrapped him up in clear view of the officials, and they caught him on the play, and BC will have to re-kick this one.
Holding, BC number 48. Be 3rd down repeated.
Penalties have been very costly this year to Dave Ritchie's team. He said, there are times I just don't know what to do. He said, I stress the fact we cannot take undisciplined penalties, and he said they continue to take them. And this year, the BC Lions could establish a league record for penalties. If they continue at their current pace, they will break the record, set by Saskatchewan 2 years ago and equaled by the Riders last year.
Don, a lot of people will say that's lack of discipline on BC's behalf, but how can you discipline grown men when they're working for a paycheck? You can't tell them you're not going to play because you need all the players in the lineup. He's resorted to finding players, and that hasn't helped.
Only 21 yards on the kick by Caravata.
And they're going to end up with no yards as Farthing recognized that he could get that ball, and Trevathan was right on top of him.
No yards. BC number 77, 15-yard penalty, first down.
So the 15-yard penalty again puts the Riders into scoring position. Scott?
Well, Don, there's the Riders' most faithful fan. In the West, Stampeders headed towards another first-place finish, favored that a couple of points tomorrow when they play the Cats in Hamilton. BC needs a win today to keep first place in mind, and with Sacramento a lock for 2 points in Shreveport tomorrow, it's obvious why Saskatchewan has to win this game. In the East, Baltimore and the Bombers still even, and then three teams with losing records tripping all over each other for those last two playoff spots.
And like last week, Saskatchewan operating with a very short field here in the first quarter.
Pass into the end zone intended for Turner, incomplete. Burgess was throwing into double coverage. There was a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. Enos Jackson, who was one of those defending against Turner, is down deep in the end zone.
And Jackson has had a knee problem since that Shreveport game earlier in the year, and he's down on the field. But one of the big pluses for BC is that they have Barry Wilburn that they signed 3 weeks ago once he was released by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Illegal procedure. 81 Saskatchewan. Repeat first down.
He was inserted in the lineup for this week's game. He had some disciplinary problems last week, but now the big challenge, playing against his former teammates, how will the emotions affect Barry Wilburn? Will it be the same as it's been thus far with Ken Austin?
So with Enos Jackson going out, and it appears they are taking a look at his right knee, Barry Wilburn will get an opportunity to play. They got tangled up, Jackson and Turner, along with Charles Gordon.
Looked like he just jammed that knee right into that hard surface at the far end zone here at Taylor Field. He's going off not under much difficulty right here, and we'll possibly see him again this afternoon.
The procedure call against Ray Elgard. And there's number 3 coming into the ball game, Barry Wilburn. He was upset over the fact that he did not start 2 games back. As a result, was suspended by the BC Lions, added to the roster for this game. They have resolved any problems that existed between Wilburn and Coach David Ritchie, and he came into this game as the designated import.
Now, bringing Wilburn into the game, you have to make some defensive adjustments. Les Brown will move into Enos Jackson's halfback spot, and Wilburn will go out on the corner.
Newby was coming on the blitz as Burgess was looking for Boyko. It's incomplete.
And that time, Boyko should have made that reception. He had the inside release on Wilburn, and he had a step. Burgess put the ball right in his hands, and he dropped it. You'll get a shot right here. You'll get a shot right here as it on the inside release as Boyko had that ball in his hands. He had Wilburn on his hips. He should have made that reception.
5 minutes remaining in the opening quarter. 3-0. The Saskatchewan Roughriders lead the BC Lions. 2nd and 15, Saskatchewan. Burgess operates out of the shotgun. 3 receivers wide to the left. The pass intended for Turner. Touchdown! And Tom Burgess hustles downfield to congratulate Albert Turner on his first catch and first CFL touchdown.
Big play early for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Riders needed to make something happen about what the defense has been giving them. Great field position. Last week they got a chance to operate with the short field, got 2 early touchdowns, and the results this afternoon has been a touchdown and a field goal thus far.
The Riders have not been particularly productive all season in the opening quarter of the first 14 games they have played. But now McCallum adds the point after, and with 4:20 remaining in the opening quarter at Taylor Field, The Riders are in front by a score of 10-0.
Albert Turner, Coach Ray Yock, in talking with him early in the week, was very excited about this young man. He said he's possibly the fastest receiver that they've ever had here as a Saskatchewan Roughrider. Going a simple out-up route, he's working against Les Brown. Les Brown, if you recall, moved from his left corner position into Enos Jackson's right halfback position, so he was out of place on that play. You know, he's not accustomed to being in that spot on the field. Tommy Burgess recognized where the weakness was in the BC defense, and it cost BC a touchdown, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are very happy about it here at Taylor Field.
Only one touchdown, only one first down. Saskatchewan has both. Albert Turner taking the Tom Burgess pass into the end zone for the major score.
Calling home right now, let mom know he made a touchdown his first game.
Well, that's a good way to start your first CFL reception for a touchdown.
Well, it's not a bad start, and it's a big emotional lift right now for the Saskatchewan Roughriders also. BC has to be a little unnervy at this point. Last week they were down to the Riders, but they were at home in BC Place. Now they're here at Taylor Field, 27,000 vocal, unpleasant fans rooting against you. It's not an easy place to play.
Spencer McLennan takes the kickoff at his own 11-yard line. They fake the reverse, and McLennan is caught by Dave Van Bellingham, who leads the Riders in special team tackles. 4:13 is the time remaining in the opening quarter. Dave Ritchie, the boss of the BC Lions, still has thoughts about a first-place finish, but of immediate concern is staying ahead of the Edmonton Eskimos. Ray Yock's thoughts are overtaking Sacramento and moving into fourth place. His team could still finish higher, but at the moment, fourth place is the immediate goal. Some work being done with the defensive backs on the blackboard at the BC bench. Kent Austin under pressure, trying to dump it off, and the pass is complete to Mike Trevathan. He had Dave Van Bellingham all over him. The Riders last week used a 6-back defensive set. On occasion, they went to 7 defensive backs.
So we get a look at that Saskatchewan defense right here. Has been in Ken Austin's face all afternoon, been in that backfield and causing him a lot of pressure. Terrell Ulmer's been the new defensive back inserted into the lineup this week, and he's working against Ray Alexander on this play, and the wideouts have had their problems with BC this season.
2nd and 5 for the Lions. Yo Murphy was overthrown, and Dave Ritchie's team will be forced to punt it away again with 3:20 remaining in the first quarter.
Well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are doing all the things right at this moment defensively against Ken Austin. They're getting a tremendous push up front, but the secondary is doing the job. The defensive backs are staying on top of the receivers, not allowing them that separation that make them easy targets for quarterback Ken Austin. That defensive line, we see Librant Robertson, Gary Lewis, Brooks Finley, Sean Brantley. Those guys have been getting the job done thus far.
Saunders takes Caravata's kick at the 50-yard line, and Saunders brings it back into BC territory at the 50. He's taken down by Yo Murphy with 3:02 remaining in the opening quarter. That was only a 29-yard kick into the wind and an 8-yard return.
One of the things about playing here in Taylor Field and you're a kicker, you cannot get the ball high up into the wind. Caravata thus far has gotten a lot of loft on his kicks, and the ball hasn't been carrying. That wind will hold it up, and you're going to have Saskatchewan operating with a very short field as long as he continues to do that against the wind.
Tom Burgess, who ranks number 7 all-time in the CFL in touchdown passes, 176 in his career, operating out of the shotgun. It's deflected. He was looking for Elgard, and Snipes got a hand on the football.
The linebackers have been getting those deep drops, and that's a big plus for your secondary. They can play that deep zone because you have your linebackers underneath. Angelo Snipes got back 15 yards off the line of scrimmage and was able to deflect that pass.
Snipes and Burgess, former teammates with the Ottawa Roughriders. 2nd and 10. Burgess Out of the shotgun from the 50. High throw intended for Donald Narcisse. And it's 2-and-out Saskatchewan, and with that strong wind in their favor under normal circumstances, I think Ray Yauch would automatically send Dave Ridgway out to attempt a field goal.
Well, Donald Narcisse slipped down on that play, and once again we saw Virgil Robinson, one of those BC linebackers that Coach Ritchie has been so excited about all year, getting all over the field.
But with Ridgway not dressed and perhaps not sure whether McCallum could kick one of this distance, Brent Mattich comes out for a third down punt, standing at his own 45-yard line. Movement at the line of scrimmage. And some finger pointing going on. The BC Lions claim they were drawn offside by procedure on the part of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and now the officials will confer to sort it out.
I don't know if BC could ever lobby and get a call with the officials at the rate that they're accumulating them this year. The officials will always say, I don't know if you have a valid argument on this case. And Coach Ritchie, you see the concern once again on his face. He just cannot understand how his team can repeatedly draw penalties. Last week at BC Place, they drew 14 for 144 yards.
Procedure, 41 Saskatchewan, third down repeated.
That's a penalty that really doesn't hurt Saskatchewan because it's going to give Mattich a better angle and a little more field to work with the wind behind his back, punting in towards BC.
Gary Rogers is called for procedure, and there's all sorts of movement again at the line of scrimmage.
This is what we saw last week. Both teams, 14 penalties, 28 in all. And, you know, early in this game, we're getting a carpet of flags thrown all over the field.
Offside, BC 0-0. Third down repeated.
Twice thus far for Les Brown in this game.
That takes the ball back to the 50-yard line. That was where the Riders attempted to punt from previously. The Lions now with 203 penalties on the season, 5 in this game. Good punt by Mattich, and it's taken by Jefferson. Jefferson trying to go wide as he attempts to reverse his field. He slips and goes down. A 40-yard punt, 3 yards on the return with 1:40 remaining in the opening quarter. Scott?
Don, the Saskatchewan roster says tackle Dan Payne goes 300 pounds, but he's well over that. He's agile, wrestled for Canada in the '88 Olympics, and he can still pin his opponent. Yesterday at practice, he entertained defensive tackle Sean Brantley in a feature match. Brantley gives up about 6 inches and 30 pounds on Payne. Held his own, though. You know, I think we've seen some of those holds, Don, on the offensive line. We've seen them, yes, but they're not allowed. It's what Baltimore head coach Don Matthews called the liberalization of the blocking procedures.
That's the second time those two have wrestled. The first time, Payne got a pin in about 4 seconds. Intended for Darren Flutie, it's incomplete. It will be 2nd and 10 BC. Dale Joseph was defending against Darren Flutie.
That time in running that route, Flutie Don was running to an area as we saw that ball fall. Austin threw it to a spot where he expected for Flutie to be. The ball was a little overthrown, and they're going to have a 2nd and 10.
Flutie, if he continues at his current pace, could wind up the season with almost 1,600 yards in pass receptions. He comes into the game with 82 catches for 1,244 yards. 1:06 remaining. Again, Austin operates from the shotgun. 2nd and 10. Looking to the sidelines for Alexander, incomplete. Albert Brown was doing a fine job of defending against Ray Alexander. And BC offensively so far in this opening quarter has not been able to do a thing.
Don, when you look at it, you have to question, do you want to pick on Albert Brown? Albert Brown probably is the most outstanding member this season in this Saskatchewan secondary. Been having an outstanding year. That time, Ray Alexander, a 1,000-yard receiver in his own right, challenged Albert Brown. Albert had the good inside position. Alexander tried to go high, but the ball sailed out of bounds.
The Lions do not have a first down in this opening quarter, and they trail 10-0. And there is a penalty flag thrown against Saskatchewan. This is either going to be roughing the kicker or contacting the kicker, and when the ball was fielded, a no yards flag flew, but the initial penalty was on the kick attempt by Julio Caravata. Rogers made contact with Caravata.
What we'll get down is a re-kick here. I think it was a 5-yard penalty on both parts here. But the situation is BC once again coming down, picking up a foolish penalty on the no yards, not helping their situation, and they're going to re-kick here in this situation.
Illegal contact. Illegal contact. Saskatchewan, number 41. We have no yards, a 5-yard penalty. BC, number 85. Going back to the line of scrimmage, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down repeated.
We'll get Gary Rogers right here. He catches Caravata with his legs still extended in the air. Not much contact made, but the position that the official was in felt that he might have been able to avoid him, but he made the contact. But BC cost themselves because they would have had a 1st down on the play with the no yards penalty.
The 5-yard difference means 3rd and 5 for BC, and Caravata kicks again, and again he's kicking into the wind. Pressure up the middle, and Librant Robinson almost got to it. Saunders fields it. Saunders took it at the 52-yard line, and he returns it to the 42, a 10-yard run back. And excellent field position once again after the 33-yard punt by Julio Caravata for Tom Burgess and the Saskatchewan Roughrider offense.
Mike Saunders, such a valuable weapon for the Saskatchewan offense. Last week had the 60 yards rushing to put him over the 1,000-yard mark. For the first time, a Saskatchewan Roughrider has gone over 1,000 yards since 1989 when Timmy McRae accomplished that feat for their Grey Cup team.
Albert Turner, who has scored the lone touchdown, lines up wide to the left. Burgess looks over the middle, intended for Farthing, and Enos Jackson was able to knock it away from him. It looked for a moment as though Farthing had a step on him, but Jackson was able to recover, and that is also the final play of the opening quarter at Taylor Field, with the Riders leading by 10. Al Ford, the general manager of the Roughriders, yesterday when talking about the anticipated crowd for Kent Austin's return, said, "We'll have a full house." I asked if it was a sellout, and he said, "We're never sold out at Taylor Field." Last year, they set a record when they packed in over 33,000 for their game against Sacramento. We don't have an official count for today's game. There isn't any threat to that 33,000 that showed up last year for Sacramento, but it will be around 27 or maybe even 28,000, I would guess.
But every fan in the house has appreciated thus far the performance that the Saskatchewan Roughriders have provided here in the first quarter, now moving into the second.
2nd and 10, Saskatchewan, the opening play of the second quarter. Boyko takes the pass, very close to a 1st down. Last week, Boyko caught 3 passes for 69 yards against BC. He only had 3 receptions in the previous 13 games this season.
We get a look at the first quarter statistics right here. Really not much done, but the net yards by the BC Lions, if you look at 3rd from the bottom, -3. You have to take your hat off to the Saskatchewan defense. They've held that Lion offense in check that has been struggling over the last 6 games of the season.
The BC defense hasn't done a bad job either, except for the touchdown pass to Albert Turner. They've handled Saskatchewan's offense fairly well.
But when you're operating with that short field, Don, it makes it much more difficult for your defense.
Glenn Suter will hold as McCallum attempts a 41-yard field goal. His only other try was successful from 17 yards. This kick into the wind, and it's good. Well, McCallum last week, as I mentioned earlier, was approached by Ray Yock with the injury to Dave Ridgway. to join the Roughriders for the game against the BC Lions. McCallum said that he would not have felt comfortable joining Saskatchewan, having been in Dave Ritchie's plans all week in preparing for the Saskatchewan game. So Ray Yock said he could accept that, but then after the game, Yock contacted McCallum again and convinced him to come to Regina for this game against the BC Lions, and he's kicked 2 field goals and a convert so far. Now let's go down to the sidelines, and here's Scott.
All right, Don. Well, Dave Ridgway certainly admired the 40-yarder into the win by McCallum, but I know that you're sick and tired of premature reports that your career's over. Go ahead and make your free-time political telecast.
Well, there's certainly I am not intending on retiring. I'd like to play another 4 or 5 years.
I'm talking about the injury you suffered last week against Vegas. You're coming back. You're coming back next week, are you?
Well, that's my intention. I would like to play next week. If not, certainly the week after.
Dave, hang on. I want to get one more question in when we get a chance about the crowd here today. Don?
Okay.
Dave Ridgway hampered with a slight injury to his kicking leg, and McCallum has taken over, and this kick gets away from McLennan, and McLennan has to go back to the 7-yard line. And Spencer McLennan will get no further than the 24. An 18-yard return after the 62-yard kickoff. Scott?
Well, Don, as you say, Al Ford makes the point that Taylor Field is never sold out, but there's a great crowd here today, Dave. What do you make of this Kent Austin return to Taylor Field story?
Well, I think it's great. Obviously, they've made something of Kent coming back, but I hope they realize what Kent did for us while he played here. He was a great quarterback, and he won only the 2nd breakup in this franchise's history.
Having said all that, he's having a tough time today. Dave, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Don?
Yes, Kent Austin certainly did a lot for Saskatchewan, including leading them to the Grey Cup victory. He established a Saskatchewan club record, 6,225 passing yards in 1992, one of only 3 quarterbacks in the CFL to pass for over 6,000 yards.
But we're going to get Saskatchewan, possibly Sean Brantley in the middle of that defensive line. Looked like he got caught in that neutral zone. But this Saskatchewan defense, the hit that Ron Getz laid on Corey Philpott after that penalty will take a lot out of him.
Offside, Saskatchewan 96, first down repeated.
Sean Brantley is called on the offside, a Florida A&M product.
Watch the shot here Ron gets on Corey Philpott. I mean, he comes in and just plants him, Don, right in the hole. Corey Philpott lands on his backside, and you can tell that he's going to be reeling if he takes a couple more of those shots today.
1st and 5, and Philpott is the ball carrier. Philpott turns it to the outside and provides the Lions with their initial first down of the football game.
But he's not getting up off the turf that quickly, so you can tell, and now he's going off the field. Those hits will take their toll, and Corey Philpott hasn't played that much in the past 3 games. And right here, Ron Getz plants him once again as he goes down. We get a good shot on our ISO right here as Getz comes across from his inside linebacker position. Came into this game with 77 solo tackle, the defensive leader for the Riders.
Ryan Hansen comes into the ball game replacing Philpott. Sean Millington picks up about 4, maybe even 5 yards before being stopped by Finlay. 12:29 remaining in the 2nd quarter. Saskatchewan leading by a score of 13-0. Corey Philpott remains on the sidelines. Second and 5, BC. The Lions have yet to convert a 2nd down play. They do now. Ray Alexander at the 50-yard line, brought down by Dale Joseph. And the 2nd first down of the ball game for BC.
That time, Austin had the time by his offensive line. Didn't get much pressure up front. Found Ray Alexander on that deep end route from his wide-out position and got him over the middle and picked up that 2nd first down.
5th season that Ray Alexander has caught passes for over 1,000 yards. In 1986 with Calgary, he had a 1,590-yard season. Ryan Hansen slips as he tries to make the turn upfield and will have a gain of 4 yards, making the catch in front of Dale Joseph.
Well, here in the second quarter, Kent Austin is operating with the wind at his back, so it will make it a little easier for him to get the balls downfield. As you see right there, you got Hansen releasing out of the backfield into the flat. Joseph could not get over and stay with him, but he slipped down. The turf here at Taylor Field has worn over the past couple of years, and it's become very slippery here once again.
2nd and 6 BC. Lions at midfield. Austin is flushed out of the pocket, throws complete to Alexander, and Alexander stays on his feet, takes the ball down to the 34-yard line before he's tackled by Anthony Drawhorn. A 21-yard gain, Austin to Alexander, the biggest gain of the ball game for BC.
Kent Austin is displaying mobility, something he's not been noted for over his career, but that time getting outside of the pocket, Ray Alexander works back to his quarterback, giving him that clear lane to find him downfield, and picks up extra yardage after the reception.
1st and 10 from the Saskatchewan 34. Austin looks deep, intended for Flutie, well over his head. It will be 2nd and 10 BC.
Saskatchewan had a big emotional first quarter, but here in the second quarter, they've been a little lax defensively. This time, they get a lot of pressure on Kent Austin. They get up in his face, get some hits on him by Robinson once again, but they have to pick up the tempo defensively that they had in the first quarter, because Kent Austin, if you let him stay free in the pocket, he'll pick you apart.
Kent Austin had his biggest outing on August the 11th against Toronto, passing for 523 yards. He passed for 423 against Winnipeg. Austin in the shotgun. Throws deep for Trevathan, and what a catch Trevathan makes down on the 2-yard line. There's a penalty flag on the play, but somehow Trevathan was able to make the catch for a gain of 32.
Tremendous concentration by Mike Trevathan. Austin just hung that one out there, hoping that Trevathan could run under it. Drawhorn made the contact right at the end, but Trevathan made the reception nevertheless. The time that Kent Austin has gotten in the
forward pass interference. Saskatchewan number 7. It was an unintentional foul. The penalty is declined. They'll take the catch and the gain. First down.
The time that he's been getting from his offensive line, Saskatchewan has not had the pass rush here in the second quarter. You can see him right there just lofting that one downfield. Kent Austin knows how to gauge the wind here at Taylor Field, and he let that one ride along with the wind for the big play.
1st and goal, BC. Millington gets the touchdown. So Kent Austin in this second quarter with the wind at his back puts together a touchdown drive, an impressive march for the Lions, with Sean Millington capping it, putting it into the end zone from 2 yards out.
When BC gets the ball down here in the red zone, especially inside the 5-yard line, they like to go with their wedge blocking. Sean Millington is normally the ball carrier here, getting his 11th touchdown of the season. It's just straight drive blocking, reestablishing the line of scrimmage, driving that Saskatchewan defense back into the end zone.
Lou Pasaglia with the point after, and with 9:05 remaining in the first half, the Lions have closed within 6. If Kent Austin's confidence was shaken by his first quarter performance, it's been restored with this 8-play, 85-yard drive in the second quarter.
Well, we get Sean Millington. He's already elapsed all the numbers he's had last year rushing, but you see all those BC offensive linemen laying in the end zone. That means they're getting off the line of scrimmage, reestablishing where those Saskatchewan Roughriders have to play at, and they're won that battle on that play.
Ulmer takes the ball at the 6-yard line on this kickoff return for the Roughriders. He finds a hole up the middle, and with a little burst of speed brings it up to the 39, where he's stopped by Angelo Snipes.
Now that they've had a swing of emotion, how will Tommy Burgess react in coming back on the field now that Kent Austin has got on track, got the BC Lions on the scoreboard with a touchdown of their own?
Burgess has completed 3 of 10 for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. You know, since he first came into the Canadian Football League, Burgess every year has improved his touchdown totals. But this year he is going to fall well behind the 30 he threw last year. Handoff to Saunders. Saunders couldn't find room inside, bounced it to the outside, and then came back inside for about 8. When Burgess first came into the CFL in 1986, he passed for 5 and showed continual improvement until this season.
Well, one of the things you look at this season also, Don, he's been in the rotation system with Warren Jones, a young quarterback that Saskatchewan has been trying to groom for their future. And so when you don't have that many repetitions and stay consistently in the lineup, that's probably one of the things that have hindered Tommy Burgess this season.
2nd and 3. This is a reverse, and Turner loses the football. It's still loose, and the Lions have recovered. Robertson gets there to grab the football as the Riders fail in a bit of deception.
When you use the Canadian Tire...
Occurred with this play was the separation between the handlers. Watch Saunders as he comes. See Turner? Freeze it right here. The separation. He has to hand that ball off. He has to stick it right in his belly on that type of a play. As we saw, we can roll it here. That's the reason for the mishandling of that. Mike Saunders, normally a sure ball handler.
They were trying to take advantage of Turner's speed. Instead, they turn it over at the 25. 1st and 10 BC. The toss to Corey Philpott, who is back in the game. Philpott trying to turn the corner, caught by Ron Getz. Getz has done a fine job this afternoon so far for Saskatchewan in a defensive capacity. He is another of the players who came to Saskatchewan as part of that 3-way trade involving Kent Austin.
You have to be impressed with Getz. He comes in from his inside linebacker position all the way across field. People have been noted about the speed of a Corey Philpott, but look at the speed of a Ron Getz, being able to run from sideline to sideline. 3 times we've seen him already here in the first half run Corey Philpott down.
There was a penalty flag on the play, and that takes the ball back to the 30-yard line. A procedure call against Mike Trevathan. It will be 1st and 15 with 7:36 remaining in the first half, and Saskatchewan leading 13-7. Austin this time is in the shotgun. He empties the backfield, looks to his right, dumps it off for Millington, and Millington got back to the original line of scrimmage. And number 47, Ron Getz, is in the picture once again.
Ron Getz did a fine job. What he did, he's recognized offensive tackle Vic Stevens trying to bait the defensive lineman coming in, delaying getting downfield, and Getz fights through Vic Stevens as we see it right here on the screen, comes up and tackles Sean Millington for only a 5-yard gain on the play.
Stevenson is another of the ex-Saskatchewan Roughriders, now playing with the BC Lions. Forced out of bounds, but not before he gets a big first down at the 3-yard line, forced out by Anthony Drawhorn. A 21-yard gain for Darren Flutie.
Kent Austin's favorite target, Darren Flutie. Anthony Drawhorn once again allowing him to get outside, giving him too much separation there. You got to get up a little tighter because you know Austin is going to throw. Flutie caught 8 passes last week, and Drawhorn right now has to tighten up his coverage. Gary Lewis arriving a half-second late there on Kent Austin, not being able to apply enough pressure.
Back to live action, 1st and goal BC from the 3 of Saskatchewan. The Lions threatening to take the lead for the first time, and Corey Philpott puts it in the end zone. Dave Ritchie's team trailed 13-0 before Kent Austin engineered an 8-play, 85-yard drive in the second quarter, and now Corey Philpott puts the BC Lions back on even terms.
The big plays by BC's inside receivers, Trevathan and Flutie, and now Corey Philpott getting the ball on a quick toss with that speed, able to hit that seam and explode into the end zone for the 2nd touchdown for BC this afternoon.
And now Lou Pasaglia, the CFL's all-time leading scorer, puts the BC Lions in front with 6:09 remaining in the half.
BC Lions. Is he pumped? Absolutely. This is just the way he hoped it would be when he returned to Taylor Field, and he's quieted the crowd somewhat now that he has his team in the lead. We'll talk to Kent Austin on Live at the Half about why his relationship with Saskatchewan soured so quickly. He thinks he knows why, and so do a lot of other people. And the class of the CFL, Wally Boineau has his Stampeders in Hamilton to face the Ticats. He'll speak to us live. By the way, Dom will have the telecast of that game tomorrow. Stamps and Ticats at 1:30 Eastern.
Albert Brown is the man on the kickoff return for Saskatchewan. There's a flag on the play as Tom Europe brought down Albert Brown at the 37-yard line. Further to Kent Austin's performance in this second quarter, he has completed 6 of 7 second quarter passes as opposed to just 2 of 9 in the opening quarter.
Well, you can see by the emotion with both teams in the first quarter, Don, that Saskatchewan was riding on that high, and they had the wind behind their back here at Taylor Field that can cause a lot of problems for an opposing team going into it. Kent Austin spent most of his year playing in and against that wind.
Offside on the kick, BC number 15. We have an illegal block on the run back. Saskatchewan, the penalties will be applied at the point of last kick, net 5 for the kicking team.
And in playing in that wind, Kent Austin got the wind at his back in the second quarter. A couple of big plays by the BC offense along with the fumble by the Saskatchewan offense. BC was able to take the fans out of this game, and the emotion of the Saskatchewan Roughriders has not been the same since that point. They have to find a way to rejuvenate themselves here in the second quarter.
Well, Austin didn't get the start he wanted before this full house at Taylor Field. But in the second quarter, with a passing performance that has seen him lead the Lions to a pair of touchdowns, he has quieted the crowd somewhat. Ulmer back at the 2-yard line. Tries to go back up the middle and is stopped at the 27. Sean Millington was there to make the tackle.
Well, you can see it's very flat here at Taylor Field right now. The crowd noise, the level was immense in the first quarter. Right now, everyone is sort of stagnated player fan-wise, trying to see what's going to occur next. Tommy Burgess needs to come up with 2 or 3 first downs here in a drive to get his team marching and to get everyone back in the flow.
Tommy Burgess, number 7 all-time in the CFL in touchdown passes. He's just 4 ahead of Kent Austin. Burgess has thrown 1 touchdown pass this afternoon. Austin has used the pass to set up 2 running touchdowns by Millington and Philpott. Now it's Burgess doing some running, and a nice job of it as well, taking the ball to the 44. Harold Newby came up to make the tackle.
Don, one of the big plays I spoke about that time, Tommy Burgess did it via the leg instead of the arm. As he goes back in the pocket, couldn't find an open receiver downfield, tucked it down, picked up a great block from Dan Farthing as he cut back outside to pick up the first down and slides at the 43.
A gain of 16 for Tom Burgess, 1st and 10 Saskatchewan from the 43-yard line as Burgess operates from the shotgun. 2 of Saskatchewan's first downs were in the opening quarter. This pass complete to Ray Elgard, and Elgard is headed for the end zone. Dan Farthing made a key block that enables Elgard to go the distance.
As I spoke about, they needed to find a way to get the fans back in the game here at Taylor Field. You can hear the crowd noise here. It's at that pitch level. Ray Elgard came up with the big play. It dropped his first opportunity this afternoon to make a reception, but that time he made a great grab and a super run after the reception.
Elgard, the CFL leader with 7 1,000-yard seasons, 67 yards on the catch and the touchdown run, and he now is closing in on 900 yards for this year.
Ray Elgard is noted for those running starts that he get off the line of scrimmage. He came across the field from that right slot position. Enos Jackson, he got him with the arm rip, But watch Dan Farthing. He came right behind Elgard and got a key block on Charles Gordon to allow Elgard to take off to the races, and he outran Gordon to the end zone with that stiff arm. We get a good shot of him right here. Elgard goes high, picks up the ball, but watch as he gets those shoulders squared up. That's the key. He got them squared and was able to turn upfield, and the big guy was off to the races. Not noted for being that fleet of foot, but he had enough to get there.
Ray Elgard is one of the most physical receivers in the CFL. As a matter of fact, last week against the BC Lions, he and one of the BC defensive backs got into it.
Well, he's been noted for that throughout his career. He's known as a tough guy, and he's one of those emotional leaders and team leaders here in Saskatchewan, been here his entire career. And right there, he gave a big play to get this crowd here at Taylor Field back into it, and hopefully he's trying to give his team a lift also.
Spencer McLennan from the 30-yard line ran into one of his blockers and then is decked by Rogers as he gets up to the 40.
Well, as we're seeing right now, football is a game of swings. Right now, things are swinging Saskatchewan's way with the motion that is going right now. Ken Austin needs to find a way once again to quiet this crowd here at Taylor Field.
2014, Saskatchewan leads as the Riders came right back after the BC Lions had erased a 13-point deficit. 4:27 is the time remaining in the first half. And the fans get on Kent Austin once again as he attempts to call signals at the 40. Intended for Philpott. He's got it. There's a penalty flag on the play. Ron Getz was running with Corey Philpott and is undoubtedly going to be called for illegal contact.
Well, that's a mismatch that Ken Austin will take advantage of every time when he can get that.
Forward pass interference intentional. Number 47 Saskatchewan, it's first down.
You know, the penalty was called intentional, but it was a good play by Ron Getz because Philpott had him beat, and if he had made that reception, it was going to result in 6. But Ken Austin came out right away and answered what Tommy Burgess had done to get this crowd electrified, and he's taken them out of it after one big play.
Kent Austin operates from the shotgun from the 30-yard line. Penalty flag as Yo Murphy makes the catch and then is bounced out of bounds by Dale Joseph.
But Don, as you alluded to, a penalty flag once again. It's in that area where you're going to get an offensive holding call by that offensive line, and it's going to march this one back 10 yards.
Holding 55 BC, first down repeated.
Ian Sinclair has been noted as of late for one of those players that will happen to, working against nose guard Sean Brantley. Held him up right there at the line of scrimmage. The officials right on top of it. Cost BC a big play.
Back at the 40-yard line, it's first down 20 for the Lions. 3:41 remaining in the first half. Alexander makes the catch. Albert Brown trying to wrestle Alexander down, and he gets some help in taking the big wide receiver down at the 25-yard line.
But Ken Austin able to come back and pick up most of the yardage after the penalty is key because he gives himself a second and short to operate with. Alexander going down, finding that open spot. Saskatchewan playing man. He got away from Brown, able to pick up 15 yards. Now it's only 2nd and 5.
Three receivers wide to the right. The toss goes to Corey Philpott. Philpott trying to turn the corner, but Dave Van Bellingham takes Philpott out of bounds short of the first down marker.
The big play, the contained by the BC defense.
2:50 remains in the first half with the Roughriders leading by 6. On 3rd and 4, Lou Pasaglia will attempt to cut the deficit in half with a 31-yard field goal try. 2:50 the time remaining in the first half here at Taylor Field in this BC Saskatchewan rematch. Lou Pasaglia, for the second consecutive week last week against Saskatchewan at BC Place Stadium, kicked a final second field goal to provide the Lions with a victory. The previous week, it was against the Edmonton Eskimos at Commonwealth Stadium. And Lou Pasaglia makes it a 2017 game with 2:42 remaining here at Taylor Field in Regina.
Now, when you talk about those two last-second field goals, Don, those were inter-conference games, and that meant even more because it gave you the points within the conference on the victories.
Lou Pasaglia, the all-time leading scorer. I thought Dave Ritchie had an interesting comment when asked about Lou Pasaglia. He said, every day at practice I walk by Lou and I say, how are things going, Lou? He says, if I get any response at all, he says, I just keep on walking. I know he's going to be ready.
You think he was resorting to Lou's age on that situation, and if he's still breathing over there, then he'll get the job done. One of the most reliable kickers that's ever played in the CFL, Louis Pasaglia, Mr. Consistency, been around a long time, and the guy that's been chasing him in the record department, Dave Ridgway, keeps hoping that Louis someday will retire.
Inside handoff with Mike Saunders, and Saunders is going to be close to a first down at the 45-yard line.
One of those great running plays in the CFL. Everybody has it in their package. It's called the counter tray. You'll pull both out offside offensive linemen. You'll pull them around. They get the kick out block. They get the seal block on the corner. And Saunders read the blocking perfectly, took it up the sideline, and picked up the first down.
First and 10.
This is the third time this season that the Riders have played back-to-back games. They had a home-and-home series with Edmonton, a home-and-home series with Winnipeg, and a home-and-home with BC. Coach Ray Yock said he really doesn't like back-to-back games. The pass intended for Saunders is incomplete. Tom Europe, the safety, was just a little slow in getting over, but the pass from Burgess to Saunders was over the receiver's head. And this is how the Riders have fared in the back-to-back games. They lost in Edmonton, won at home, and then they took both games from Winnipeg, 42-31 and 49-18, in a game Cal Murphy has described as one of the worst games his football team has played in a long, long time.
Well, the Riders have struggled somewhat since that Winnipeg back-to-back matchup. Very emotional series, and they may have lost something in there.
Donald Narcisse will have a first down, and Donald Narcisse, in pursuit of Tony Gabriel's all-time record for consecutive games catching passes, keeps his streak alive. He now has 123 consecutive games with at least one catch.
Well, Donald Narcisse, sure-handed receiver, dropped one also earlier like Ray Elgar, but that time made the reception, but the crushing shot by Charles Gordon at the end of that run, but Narcisse picked up the first down. Saskatchewan has the ball at the 54-yard line in BC territory.
Tony Gabriel's record for consecutive games catching passes, 137.
He's about a year away from that.
I think that Burgess was looking for Elgard. It was well over the head of the Saskatchewan slot back.
He was looking for Elgar, but Andrew Stewart had him wrapped up in the backfield and hit him just as he started to follow through with that ball right there. And that time it went over Elgard's head. We get a shot right here. Stewart coming in, getting up in Burgess's face, taking him to the turf. And that turf is hard at Taylor Field, and it will take its toll on your quarterbacks.
2nd and 10. The ball is at the 54. Narcisse with another catch, some inside blocking, and another first down.
The slip screen, Don, the second successive catch that Donald Narcisse has had in this same play sequence. What you do is that you get your offensive lineman out, you bring Narcisse underneath, they get the kick out blocks as we see right here, along with Elgard, Payne, and Anderson, and Burns, and Narcisse picks up another first down.
Donald Narcisse is second in the CFL among active players on the all-time pass reception list. Elgard is the leader, of course, and this pass intended for Elgard, and he may have prevented an interception, batting it away from safety Tom Europe. And Europe is complaining to the official. he thought he was interfered with.
Well, that time, that's what you get from an Elgard. This is a crafty old veteran right here, Ray Elgard. That time, he recognized that that ball was in jeopardy of being intercepted. And you'll see right here, as he comes across, he arrives just as the ball arrives in Europe's hands. Europe had no complaint. Official right on top made the proper call. He saw it all the way. Elgard made a great defensive play being a receiver.
2nd and 10. The ball is at the 39 of the BC Lions. 1:38 remaining in the first half. Burgess gets away from the initial pressure. Looking for Farthing, and it is knocked away by Charles Gordon. Ray Yawk breathes a sigh of relief.
These BC defensive backs right now are figuring out that's the reason why they're on the defensive side of the ball, because they can't catch. Tom Europe and Charles Gordon, both successive plays, have dropped it. Gordon right there, you see the disappointment on him. He had that ball right in his hand. Farthing comes across at the last moment, but Gordon should have made this pick. He dropped it before Farthing made the contact, and BC will get an opportunity here for another long McCallum field goal, a 46-yarder.
Charles Gordon and James Jefferson both had a better chance at making the interception than Farthing had of the reception. It'll be a 46-yard field goal attempt by Paul McCallum. He previously kicked one of 41 yards into the wind. Penalty flag in the play as the kick sails wide. And the BC Lions, Spencer McLennan, will concede a single point, but there was a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage.
Don, this is the place where you'll normally get an elevation call where you'll get a defensive player trying to use another defender and catapult up off of his back in this situation. Looks like it's going to go against BC, whatever the call is.
Holding, number 47 on the defense. It's first down.
Tyrone Chapman was guilty of holding. And Dave Ritchie doesn't believe the call or necessarily agree with it, but it will provide the Riders with another first down.
Well, he had the 4 and the 7 right, but he should have changed it to 7-4 because it was David Chaters who grabbed the center Wayne Drinkwalt and tried to pull him, allowing a gap for Ray Alexander to go up the middle and possibly block that kick, being 6'4" and with that leaping ability.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 29. 1:22 remaining in the half. 3 receivers wide to the left. Burgess throws over the middle for Elgard. He loses the ball. And who's got it? The Riders managed to get it back. Dan Farthing appears to be the man in the bottom of the pile.
Ray Elgard goes down and make the reception. Looked like he might have been trying to lateral the ball, but he got stripped right there by Brown. But Charles Gordon had a clear shot to pick up the ball. Instead of trying to just fall on it, he tried to pick it up and run with it. Dan Farthing being alert, able to get underneath of that pile and keep the drive alive for the Riders.
2nd and 3, Saskatchewan, with 1:07 remaining in the first half. The ball is at the 22 of BC. The Riders lead 20-17. Mike Saunders gets the first down and continues driving to the 12. .53 seconds now in the first half, and at halftime, Scott Oak will talk with BC quarterback Kent Austin, and we'll also hear from Wally Buono as he takes his first place Stampeders into Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Burgess looks to the end zone for Farthing, incomplete. Farthing got held up as he tried to come off the line of scrimmage and then got tangled up with safety Tom Europe.
Well, right now, it's a real struggle going down there in the trenches with both teams. I mean, a lot of emotion flying between this BC defensive line and Saskatchewan offensive line. A lot of pushing and shoving. After the play, the officials are starting to step in and break it up. But right now, it's very important for BC to be able to keep Saskatchewan out of the end zone and not allow them to get a touchdown going into the half. You get a shot right down here where it's all taking place, right in the trenches.
Burgess in the shotgun. 2nd and 10 into the end zone for Saunders. Touchdown.
will rise to occur here at Taylor Field. They got the fans back in the game going into halftime. Mike Saunders, the big play weapon for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, running and receiving, getting one-on-one against the free safety Europe. Got in the seam, a mismatch. Europe had too far to run on the play.
Mike Saunders with 7 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns this year for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And the Riders get a very big last-minute touchdown in this first half as McCallum adds the point after for a 27-17 lead.
Don, and you got to go back to that penalty on the missed field goal. It kept the drive alive for the Roughriders. Another foolish mistake by the BC Lions. We're going to get a look at Saunders right here as he circles out of the backfield. He got up on Europe, the free safety, not accustomed to covering one-on-one. He's normally that second guy to come over to help in a combo coverage. But Saunders, recognizing where the ball was, made the adjustment in flight and made the great reception. Burgess hanging in the pocket, knowing he's going to take the hit from Chatham right there, but he knew the touchdown meant more to the team than his own personal health on the play.
What a year Mike Saunders is having as both a runner and a receiver for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And psychologically, getting a touchdown in the first half with just 29 seconds remaining will give the green and white a big lift as they go to the dressing room.
A huge lift, Don, because they'll have a lot to build on. It's going to be an emotional blow for the BC Lions because not only have they gone into the locker room back-to-back weeks versus the Riders trailing, but now they're on the road doing it.
Spencer McClellan takes the ball at the 20-yard line. And the kicker, McCallum, trips him up as he gets up to the 49-yard line. That is a 28-yard run back for Spencer McClellan. You know, you talk about teams getting a lift. The BC Lions got one from Spencer McClellan on the 17th of September when he returned a missed field goal try 109 yards for a touchdown against Edmonton.
Big play. The ball went wide. Edmonton elected to try the long field goal instead of sending the kick cover team in. And when you get those big old linemen running down, they can't cover like those small scat backs can.
Austin out of the shotgun, looking for Trevathan over the middle. It was over his head, and there's a penalty flag on the play.
Well, once again, BC is going to be flagged for a holding call. Denny Chronopoulos right in the middle of that offensive line. Sean Brantley creating a lot of havoc, getting that good push. It's going to cost BC another 10.
Holding 53, British Columbia. The first down repeated.
At the start of the game, James, we talked about how costly penalties have been for the BC Lions this year and how they, at their current pace, will establish a league record for infractions. And they now have been penalized 11 times for 95 yards.
Well, when you look at it and you're getting those holding calls at this point, that's just lack of hustling by the offensive lineman because you know your quarterback is going to pass. You got to get yourself in better position on the field to get the block for him.
Screen pass will produce about 11 yards with 12 seconds remaining in the half.
Also, Saskatchewan with 12 seconds right here have to protect against a 15 to 20-yard gain against them here because they would be in field goal range for Louis Pasaglia with the wind behind his back at Taylor Field.
Darren Flutie gets 12 at 2nd and 8. Austin throws deep down the sidelines. There's a penalty flag on the play. It was intended for Alexander.
Well, it's in that holding area, and I would safely say that Saskatchewan will decline this one and go into the half with this lead.
53 BC, penalties declined. That's it for the half.
Another holding call against Denny Chronopoulos. The penalty has declined, and Kent Austin and his BC teammates head to the dressing room, trailing by 10. Scott?
Well, Don, how Kent Austin must be looking forward to getting the last laugh today, but through 30 minutes, it's the Riders and their fans who are smiling with the lead. It's a 10-point ball game. Stand by now for Live at the Half. 10 and a fair wind at halftime at Taylor Field. Taylor Field was the safest of havens for Kent Austin for most of his 7 years as quarterback for the Riders, but today as a member of the BC Lions, it's a minefield. Mind you, Austin dodged most of those mines in the first half, but from prodigal son to public enemy number one, that effectively describes Kent Austin's relationship with Saskatchewan.
2nd and goal. Austin in the end zone. Elgar, touchdown.
And Austin will put it up again.
Austin play action. He's looking deep.
His name was called often. In the late 80s, Kent Austin elevated Rider pride. He was the first serious ray of hope at quarterback since Ron Lancaster. In 89, he could have been premier. By 93, he wanted out.
After 7 years, I just felt like it was a time in my life where my career here kind of run its course.
Last season was not enjoyable for Austin. He knew partway through it his days in Saskatchewan were numbered. In the offseason at his home in Nashville, Austin made his statement.
I want to be real clear that the decision has been made by me and my family on whether or not we'll be back in Regina, and we won't.
But so what? Players have wanted out before and gone quietly. What made this one such an ugly affair?
It was a situation where really just a couple guys in the media really got vindictive and publicly, and it was an every week bashing of me and my character.
That would be the local paper, and Austin refuses to speak to anyone from the leader post. He may have shot the messenger, but the message is clear.
Well, as soon as somebody demands that they want out of Saskatchewan, it usually alienates the fans around here. They're a pretty loyal bunch, and Kent Austin had put in a lot of good years for this football team, but once he demanded a trade and said that it didn't have anything to do with money, he wanted out. That's when the fans started turning on him.
It wasn't long ago they used to line up for hours at Taylor Field to get his autograph. This week they paid to bash an Austin Mini with his number on it. Fans here feel scorned by their former quarterback.
Well, I think Kent Austin is a whiner.
He shouldn't have left. That's all I have to say.
Well, he got what he wanted, big contract, a lot of money, so.
And today, fans at Taylor Field were intent on not letting Austin forget where he came from.
The bottom line is when you get on the field, it's a football game, and there's nothing that they can do about that. When you get between the lines, the ball's kicked off, everybody's got to play.
And here's a sample of Austin's work in the first half of his first visit to Taylor Field as an opponent. He got going in the second quarter. Fine throw here, an even better catch by Mike Trevathan. The key play in a BC touchdown drive. Austin knew it would be critical to get his former fans out of the game, and he managed that for much of the second quarter. But the Riders had the lead by 10 for the first 30 minutes. Live at the Half returns to Regina in just a moment. The West. So someone with more than a passing interest in this game is Stampeders head coach Wally Buono, who joins us live now from Hamilton, where his Stamps have just finished up practice in preparation for their game tomorrow against the Ticats. Welcome to the program, Wally, and let me ask you first of all, now that you're facing the hard luck Ticats tomorrow and Doug Flutie's got a sore foot, be a perfect opportunity to rest him, but I gather that recent history suggests that's not a wise thing for you to do.
Well, hello, Scott. I think that's correct. Doug's foot actually is a lot better than people really believe it is. And he's had a good week of practice, and we're by no means going to rest Doug. He's very eager to play, and we want to get the 2 points to make sure that we stay in first place.
Last year by this time, the Stampeders had first place all wrapped up. Then you lost 2 of your last 3, and you lost the Western Final. Are you working harder to keep your players motivated this year, Wally?
Well, not really, because we felt we kept our players as motivated as we can. I think the race in the West right now is making the players stay focused. And when you look at teams behind us, they're breathing down our necks, and we got to get our job done.
Wally, the Stamps are in first place right now, but nothing will matter unless, and I'll let you finish the sentence.
Well, unless we're playing in Vancouver, actually, for the Grey Cup. Our guys were, I think, really devastated. I know our organization was. High expectations for 94, and we're not going to feel a success unless we're Grey Cup champions.
Wally, would it really prove a point if you were to meet Edmonton in the West Final on a freezing cold day in Calgary and you were able to beat them? Because I know that loss and the circumstances under which you suffered it last year have really haunted this team for a while.
No, not really. I think people have short memories. In 1991, it was a cold day in Edmonton. In 1992, It was a cold day in Calgary for the Western Finals, and both times we won those games. It just happened to be in 1993 we didn't execute, and I still don't blame the weather. I blame the fact that there was opportunities in the first half. We floundered them away, and then Edmonton really got their act together, played well in the second half, and made the big plays.
Speaking of weather, it looks like a gorgeous day in Hamilton today.
Well, it is. We left Calgary, and there was a snowstorm, so we're happy to be here.
Wally, thanks for your time. Good luck tomorrow.
Well, thank you.
Stamps and Ticats, 1:30 Eastern. Wally Buono leads his team onto the field at Iverwin, and we'll have the telecast for you on the CFL on CBC. We're halfway through this rematch for the Riders and the BC Lions at Taylor Field. Don, we've talked an awful lot about Kent Austin, but it was the other fella, Tom Burgess, who stole the show late in the first half of this game.
Well, Tom Burgess did steal the show late in the first half of this football game, and it was Burgess connecting with Albert Turner that provided the Roughriders with a 13-0 lead in the opening quarter.
Well, they came out and had a big, huge opening crowd here at Taylor Field, and getting Turner off track early in the game, getting his first catch and touchdown of his CFL career, Don, got the team off to a big early lift.
But then the BC Lions came back in the second quarter. 2 good drives put together by Austin. The second one capped with the toss to Corey Philpott for the 3-yard run.
Corey Philpott, much maligned lately through the press and everything, missed a couple games. He was taken out of lineups, but he was able to get the touchdown and get BC on top in the second quarter.
But old Mr. Reliable, Ray Algard, took a 67-yard toss and turned it into a touchdown for Saskatchewan.
You got to make sure when this guy makes the reception that you wrap him up. You cannot allow him to run freely in your secondary, and Ray took it to 67 yards and gave Saskatchewan that big burst when BC had gotten back in the game in the second quarter.
And then the late touchdown by Mike Saunders provided the Saskatchewan Roughriders with a 10-point lead. What adjustments do you look for in the second half either way?
They need to slow down that rush of Saskatchewan up front. They got to give Kent Austin more time. He needs to free up his inside receivers, because if he doesn't, he's going to have a hard time finding those wideouts.
Okay, Scott.
All right, Don, the BC Lions are home and cooled as far as the playoffs are concerned. Not so Saskatchewan. If the Riders lose this one, they'll be a long shot for postseason play, so it's an important final half coming up from Taylor Field.
Welcome back to Taylor Field in Regina, where the Roughriders lead by 10 as we get set to start the second half. Kent Austin, during his career with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, had some very impressive outings. Dave Ridgway referred to them in an interview with Scott Oak. Austin set a league record, throwing 65 times against Edmonton in 1991. He shares the record for completions in one game, 41 versus Toronto in 1993. He also completed 40 passes in 92 against BC and 39 passes in one game against Calgary in 1992. And as mentioned earlier, one of 3 quarterbacks in the CFL to pass for over 6,000 yards. Doug Flutie has done it a couple of times. David Archer from Sacramento is the other. And Austin had 6,225 yards in 1992. So he certainly had a fair bit of success at Taylor Field. But Rider fans this afternoon are hoping the guy wearing number 12 on their side has all the success.
Well, I don't think that he'll ever forget the times that he played here at Taylor Field and all those memories and everything. And the fans also recognize what he did for this team. But right now, it's their obligation to root for the present members of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Kent Austin is actually the enemy today. After all those years of being on their side and their big gun, he's the enemy, and they want the guys wearing green today to win the game.
And 27,008 spectators have let Kent Austin know it ever since he stepped onto the field in the player introductions. Ulmer takes the kickoff at the 15-yard line. And the Riders will be scrimmaging 1st and 10 from the 28. The BC Lions won the coin toss, opted to defer their choice to the second half, and they are hoping to have some success with the wind at their back in the 4th and final quarter of this football game.
Now, Tommy Burgess went into the locker room on a big high after hitting Saunders with the touchdown pass. Will he be able to continue that? He got the drive going by running the ball, and when he ran the ball, what that did, it forced the linebackers of BC to stay closer to the line of scrimmage and not get those deep drops and get in those underneath routes.
Burgess finds Algard, and Algard is brought down by Les Brown, but not before he picks up 8 yards.
Very safe pass route to start the game. We see how he's dispersed the ball to his receivers. He's gone across the field quite equally. We see 3 receivers with 2 receptions each. He's hit the running backs, Boyko and Saunders, which has been key in the first half.
Second and a little more than a yard for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Burgess keeps, and he dives forward to the 40-yard line, and that will be a first down. Burgess with 3 touchdown throws this afternoon. Conceivably, before this season comes to a conclusion, he could move into the number 5 position all time behind Ron Lancaster, Tom Clements, Matt Dunnigan, and Dieter Brock in touchdown passes.
Pretty equal in the first half when you look at the total numbers, the 134 yards by BC offensively. But the key was the penalties. We didn't get a statistic up on those, and possibly we can, but that was the key to hurt BC in the first half.
Mike Saunders takes the ball across the 45-yard line to the 47, tackled there by Robertson.
And what Saunders does to your defense is that he forces you to play honest. You can't cheat back all the time because he's a game breaker. And you give him a seam and you get him out. We've already seen one-on-one against safety Tom Europe what he can do once he's in the secondary. He can outrun people.
A pickup of 6. It will be 2nd and 4, Saskatchewan. Burgess from the shotgun for Elgard. Elgard got away from Les Brown for a Saskatchewan first down.
Well, you know, if you look at Les Brown when he comes up on Ray Elgard, he's not going to challenge Ray up physically. He's going to go down, hit him around those ankles, and try to get him off of his feet. Ray Elgard, just a simple out. Brown comes up and he goes low. He's not going to get physical with him. Just try to knock him off balance.
Elgard is closing in on a 3rd game of 100 or more passing yards. 4 catches for 89 so far. Farthing stumbled as he was trying to get into his pattern. Before he could regain his balance, Burgess had delivered the football.
Well, that's one of the problems that a lot of players have experienced thus far here at Taylor Field today is the footing. A lot of players so spat up, and if you look at Farthing's shoes, he has a lot of tape on them, and when you try to plant and you get on the side of that foot, it will just slide out from underneath you. Bad traction. You got to blame the player on that account.
Is this artificial turf at Taylor Field slipperier than in some other parks?
It is. It's worn. It's been here for several years, and with the cold climate here and the constant use through the multiple events that are put on here at Taylor Field, it has taken a beating.
Narcisse is wide open on the sidelines, and Burgess found him. And he has a first down.
Had a nice conversation with Donald Narcisse prior to the game, talking about the comments that Barry Wilburn had made in the paper about that he would shut down Donald Narcisse and he wouldn't make a catch all day long. I mean, those are bold words spoken by any individual working against Donald Narcisse. And Don's reply was, if he was that good, he wouldn't have got cut a few weeks ago.
Maybe anticipating that he wasn't going to be starting, he felt quite comfortable in making those comments. Narcisse is the man Burgess was looking for again, but Wilburn had him covered well down the sidelines. Pardon me, that was Turner that Burgess was looking for, not Narcisse.
Well, that was good coverage, but that ball had gone out of bounds on the throw. A good challenge, though, by Tommy Burgess. You've gone short, you've gone underneath, you're working with the wind at your back. You've got the defensive backs playing a little tighter, and Turner has that speed, and he can run past. On this drive here, Saskatchewan has accumulated 3 first downs. Normally when you get a CFL team that can get 3 first downs out of a drive, they come up with points, and they're in McCallum field goal range already in this drive.
The Riders lead by 10. Burgess from the shotgun completes the pass for Turner, and he's got a first down. They've been moving Turner around. They've had him at the slot back position. They've had him at a wide receiver position.
Well, Turner is the guy that they wanted to get active in their offense, and we saw in the first quarter where he got the touchdown. You have to recognize the speed and give him the respect, and you can see the secondary laying off. Gordon coming there late. Turner had the yardage for the first down. Recognizing where the sticks was on second down, very critical. Once again, Scrivener coming in late on Tommy Burgess, he has to be a little careful because he has a history of getting those flags.
From the shotgun, sideline pattern for Donald Narcisse, and he made the catch in front of James Jefferson for another Saskatchewan first down.
You know, you spoke earlier, Don, about Donald Narcisse being the second most active receiver in the CFL behind Ray Elgard. He's number 2 amongst active players in receptions. That's great concentration by Donald Narcisse to go down and pull that one right off his shoe tops and make the reception in front of Jefferson.
First and 10 Saskatchewan. The ball is at the 16 of the Lions. Handoff to Saunders inside, and Newby is the first to make contact with him, and then about a half dozen BC Lion players try and drive him back.
You have to be really impressed, Don, with this drive that Saskatchewan has mounted thus far. They've taken a lot of time off the clock. Tommy Burgess has mixed his plays very well. He spread the ball around to different receivers, and they've run with the ball with Saunders.
I think the Riders would be a lot happier, however, if they were taking time off the clock going against the wind rather than with it at their backs. But they are keeping the football out of the hands of the BC Lions. 9:05 remaining in the third quarter. 2nd and 8, Saskatchewan. Burgess sprints right. He dumps it off for Farthing, and Farthing is going to be close to a first down. He got to the 10 before he was driven back to the 14, and there's also a penalty flag, a late flag on the play.
And once again, Don, Angelo Snipes is going to be the culprit here, piling on when Farthing was stacked up, little extra hits.
Major foul, piling. 91 BC, first down.
And that's what has killed BC. We go back to the first half when Saskatchewan had missed the field goal attempt. We'll get the shot here. Snipes coming in late. Farthing is already down. Totally unnecessary. Very cheap shot by Angelo Snipes. The field goal was missed. Chaders took the penalty. Saskatchewan, the result of that came a touchdown 2 plays later to Saunders. Now they have the ball at the 3-yard line.
Over 100 penalty yards have been marched off against the BC Lions this afternoon. On the option, the ball is loose, and the Lions have got it. Burgess attempted to flip it out in running the option, and the BC Lions recover. It was Dave Chaders who came up with the ball.
And Andre Francis have more than Glenn Suter.
Les Brown has a lot more. Philpott again, the man that Austin is looking for, and Raisavi into the ball game as an extra defensive back along with Dave Van Bellingham, comes over to knock it away.
And that time, Glenn Suter came a long way from his free safety position to get after Ken Austin. He was a little slow getting up, but he creeped up. Austin couldn't find him originally. He comes in to get the pressure on Austin at the last moment right there. You can see as Chronopoulos falls over his leg, but Suter was very close to Austin on that play.
So the Riders are going to get the ball back in pretty good field position. Glenn Suter, the safety, has been used a couple of times today on the blitz by Saskatchewan. Caravata's third down punt is taken by Almer. Almer took it at the 33 and brings it back to the 28 with 7:33 remaining in the third quarter.
Half of Taylor Field, the crux of Ray Ock's address at halftime. Boys, get some points, because this is exactly the position we found ourselves in at BC Place last week. We had the lead at the half, and we didn't score. We scored 1 point in the second half and lost the game. And Don, a touchdown at any point in the second half by Saskatchewan would be significant. The Riders have gone 4 games and only managed 2 second-half touchdowns. They were both against the Shreveport Pirates. No cheap shots about the Pirates necessary here, but it's a disturbing trend. They must change if they're to allow themselves any chance of making the playoffs. But here's a significant stat. Kent Austin will have the wind in the fourth quarter, and he's done a good job with it in years past at Taylor Field.
Yes, and the BC Lions have done a good job this year of scoring points in the fourth quarter. Burgess, end zone, Turner, touchdown.
This is a young man that they were very excited about and hoping to get into the mix of things for the Riders offense this afternoon. And he has responded with 2 big touchdown receptions in his first game here at Taylor Field as a Saskatchewan Roughrider.
Turner was signed by Saskatchewan as a free agent just a couple of weeks ago. In 1992, he actually had a free agent tryout with the team he has scored 2 touchdowns against this afternoon, the BC Lions.
Well, he spent 3 years in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's not a rookie to professional football, but he has been a great asset for the Saskatchewan Roughrider offense this afternoon.
McCallum with the point after, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders move in front 34-17. They have doubled the total on the BC Lions, and Albert Turner used his speed to advantage to get in behind the coverage.
Well, what they did was they moved him into the slot. Last week he was primarily a wideout. That time he got the inside release, and he got past Gordon on the play, and he beat him for the touchdown. They talked about the speed, and we see right here he's the slot receiver. Comes down, just runs a post route. That's pure speed, taking off, going out and getting it. Bird just lays it out perfectly. Touchdown, Saskatchewan.
And that will certainly make up for the way that Albert Turner mishandled an attempted reverse in the first half by the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But Albert Turner, as we mentioned at the start of our telecast today, is going to be moved around. The Riders felt they might be able to confuse the coverage if they moved Turner from the wideout to the slot position and just rotated him throughout the various receiving positions.
And that's what you got on that play. The secondary is not allowed to get a fix on him. You move him inside. Normally you have your speedier cover guys out on the corner. That time we saw the speed difference as he just exploded past Gordon, and 6 points was the result for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
7:15 remains in the third quarter. The Riders lead at 34-17. Spencer McLennan starts out from the 8-yard line. He gets a couple of good blocks. Rogers really got flattened. And I think it may have been Charles Gordon who peeled back to flatten Rogers. And Ron Getz is also down and is very slow in getting up. A 41-yard return.
Well, I guess Gordon was a little frustrated after giving up the big touchdown to Turner, and he felt like he was going to make someone play. But we'll get a shot there in the left corner of your screen. Keep an eye on the bottom right here of Rogers as Gordon comes across, and I'm talking about cleans his clock right here. Bam, he puts one up under the chin, and if he had a sinus problem, you don't have to worry about it from now on.
First and 10 with Philpott met at the line of scrimmage by Ron Getz. What a football game he has played for the Roughriders.
That man has had one heck of an afternoon of football here at Taylor Field. Ron Getz has been where Corey Philpott has gone. He has showed up everywhere that Corey Philpott has tried to run this afternoon and made him pay. We'll get a shot here of Flutie and Drawhorn. Drawhorn with the punch up high there on Flutie. But that's the type of emotions that have been playing out here at Taylor Field today.
Second and 9, BC. Austin operates out of the shotgun from the 50-yard line for Mike Trevathan, and Trevathan will have a first down. Anthony Drawhorn came over to make the tackle. Trevathan with 2 catches. And now with that one, he has 3. He and Alexander have both been on the receiving end of 3 of Kent Austin's throws.
Well, when you look at it there, you get the 10 completions, and Austin is a primary inside thrower. Even the passes that Alexander caught were coming over the middle. He doesn't like to throw to the wideouts on the corners.
This time he goes wide to Yo Murphy, who takes it out of bounds for a first down at the 39.
And just as I said, he didn't like to throw wide, he throws wide. He lays one out there, but the coverage had laid off, and that's one of the things when you play Kent Austin. If you're going to let him have a pass, you'll lay off the wideouts, roll it up inside, and you won't see any coverage on Yo Murphy right here. There's no one back there. They just left him alone. Austin threw one out. Murphy had to go up and get it, and they get very close to the first down.
Murphy has been in and out of the lineup, alternating at a wideout position with Mervyn Fernandez, but his spot as a permanent wideout with the Lions was assured this week when Fernandez decided to put an end to his comeback attempt.
Well, Fernandez came out of retirement. He had retired a year ago out of the NFL from the San Francisco 49ers, and he was sought after by BC management. They persuaded him to come out of retirement to help the team out, and he did a lot for BC throughout his career. You know, he was an all-star player for many years in the CFL, once CFL most valuable player, but Merv Fernandez decided with injuries and so on, and that he missed his family, and he wasn't putting up the numbers that he had early in his career, and he didn't want it to end that way. So he just decided to retire prior to the season ending.
1st and 10, BC. From the Saskatchewan 39. Penalty flag. Intended for Alexander. If one hopped him in front of him.
Well, that pass was deflected at the line of scrimmage. But once again, we have a flag. Looked like Saskatchewan may have gotten in that neutral zone. We saw them lining up to blitz, and they possibly caught one of offsides.
Offside, Saskatchewan number 2. First out, Peter.
Terrell Elmer is called on the offside infraction.
Well, he was trying to play some bump and run against Ray Alexander there, and he got too close to the line of scrimmage and got in that neutral zone, and the official on top of it hit him with the flag.
Elmer lines up against Alexander again. This time he backs off. The toss goes to Philpott, and Philpott slips as he tries to cut back, but Ron Getz was waiting for him.
I don't know if Slip would have saved him anyway. It looks like they both have a magnet on, you know, for each other. And Ron Getz, everywhere Philpott has gone, it's like he got a little homing device in his helmet because he's right there on top of Philpott. We get the toss in as Philpott tries to bring it in, gets that back toe and he drags it, but Ron Getz was there nevertheless to make the stop in the backfield.
2nd and 5, BC, 4:23 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Austin looked to his left, now tries to throw over the middle, intended for Trevathan, broken up by Dale Joseph.
Austin got caught in that moment of indecision. It looked like he was going to pull it down and try to run for the first down. At the last moment, Trevathan showed up, looked like he was open. We see right here, but Joseph getting the jump underneath, coming in front, and he was very close to picking that one off.
So as Austin and the offensive unit head to the bench, Lou Pasaglia and the field goal team enter the game. Darren Flutie will hold for Pasaglia at the 41. Paul McCallum made one into the wind from this distance in the first half. Pasaglia's kick is wide. Albert Brown brings it out of the end zone to the 5-yard line. I'm not really sure about the wisdom of that decision.
Not really a good decision when you look at it, but he's trying not to give up the point, and you have the wind at your back.
3:56 the time remaining in the 3rd quarter. With Albert Brown getting out of the end zone to the 5-yard line, that's the point where the Riders will scrimmage following the missed Lou Pasaglia field goal attempt.
Got to be extra careful down here, Don. You don't want to have a turnover.
Saunders is going to be dropped for a loss. Stewart is the first to make contact with him. And then Virgil Robertson came up to lend a hand. Glenn Scrivener is playing this ball game after missing the last 2 with a collarbone problem.
We get a shot here of Saunders trying to get up the middle, but Stewart doing a good job against Hendrickson right there, standing up the offensive lineman, making the contact with the running back prior to making the line of scrimmage.
Scrivener, an ex-Saskatchewan Rough Rider. He has a collarbone problem. They didn't know whether he would be able to go the distance this afternoon at Taylor Field, but so far he's hanging in there. Burgess deep down the sidelines, way over the head of Albert Turner. And the Riders will be forced to kick it away with 2:58 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
Well, that was one that Tommy was throwing away on that play because he had no chance of getting the ball to Turner, but also he didn't want to take the sack, and hopefully that Matic can get a good punt with the wind at his back and pin BC back close to midfield.
Matic will be 10 yards deep in the end zone for this 3rd down punt.
Well, they have to worry about the pressure, Don. They had 2 last week blocked at BC Place, and they've had 7 on the season.
This is only the 3rd punt of the ball game for Brent Matic. And he gets away a beauty. Jefferson has to go back to his own 51. Gets away from Drinkwalder, although Drinkwalder may have just reached out enough to trip him up.
Got that shoestring tackle there, Wayne.
With the fingertip.
He was laying, he didn't have much more that could get on him, but great hustle and effort by Wayne Drinkwalder, who is the long snapper on the play. He's the first guy down the field. He snaps the ball back to Matic, but he takes off and draws that bead on Jefferson, trips him up. BC has the ball at the 44-yard line.
Ray Yock, number 3 on the all-time list of coaching victories. Yock today is looking for his 119th. Austin for Trevathan Drawhorn has him wrapped up.
Drawhorn is given a lot of room to the inside receivers. We get a shot there at the all-time coaching stats.
Frank Clare, the all-time leader, and another former Saskatchewan Roughrider coach, Eagle Keys, number 2 on the list. Ray Yock
watched all those guys.
Had his most successful year in 1975 in Edmonton with 12 wins and a Grey Cup triumph. Jurison hit Austin just as he threw to the sidelines. Glenn Suter was coming on a blitz. The Lions were able to pick that up, and the pass intended for Murphy on the sidelines was over his head.
Bobby Jurison will get credited with the hit and the pressure, but watch Glenn Suter at the top of your screen. When Rob Smith goes out, he has to leave Bobby Jurison vacant. He had a clean shot on Ken Austin, but Glenn Suter created that play coming from his safety position. Austin couldn't find him in the lineup. He misread the defense, and it cost him a badly thrown pass.
Caravana stands at his own 54-yard line. And the Rough Riders are going to be penalized. I think they had 13 out there. Ulmer fields it, and Ulmer goes down. It looked as though Ron Getz was on the field of play when the ball was snapped. He tried to get off, and I think that will be the penalty.
Well, we're going to get a no yards on BC. We're going to get an illegal participation by Saskatchewan. We sort this out. We may end up a yard short of the first down.
1:25 is the time remaining here at Taylor Field. In the third quarter.
Now, if Ulmer had a field at that ball on the fly instead of letting that bounce, that would have been an intentional no yards, which it would have neutralized the penalties. It would have been the 15 yards wiped off, just play it all over again. But he let that one bounce, and the BC Lions may have been able to get back out of that and only be a 5-yard penalty.
Too many men. Saskatchewan. 5-yard, no-yard penalty. BC. Third down repeated.
So they'll move it up 5 yards, and if Ulmer had caught that on the fly, it wouldn't have cost Saskatchewan anything. But right now, BC will bring their offense back on the field and go for this third down and 1 attempt.
Well, that may prove to be even more costly, the fact that the BC Lions are going to be able to keep their offensive unit out there, and they are going to try and keep this drive alive, trying to sustain it right to the end zone.
Now, this is what Ken Austin is really good in, drawing defenses off sides with his voice inflection, stat-leading his count.
Sean Millington will get the first down. He just drove straight ahead and behind the blocking of the right side of the offensive line following Jamie Terrace and Vic Stevenson. Millington had a little problem in picking up the first down. The injured player is linebacker Gary Rogers.
Looked like he has an elbow or shoulder problem right there. Looked to be in quite a bit discomfort, but Sean Millington is a load when he gets the ball in those short yardage situations, and he just went off that right side and picked up the first down for BC.
51 seconds, the time remaining in the third quarter. James, I'm going to pay you a compliment. Yesterday, I was talking with Bobby Jurison, who is now talking with the Rider assistant coach, and he was saying that in his first 3 years in Saskatchewan, he had 54 sacks. And one of the reasons he was able to get 54 sacks those first 3 years, he was playing beside a guy named Curry.
Bobby's a heck of a player in his own right, and I do thank you for that, Doug. But let's go down to Scott.
All right, James, want to remind our audience of what's coming up tomorrow on the CFL on CBC as our doubleheader weekend continues. Calgary Stampeders are at Ivor Stadium in Hamilton to face the Ticats. And, of course, the Stamps have a chance to stretch out the league's best record. The Ticats, despite all the trouble they've been through recently, are still not out of playoff contention in the East.
Well, that is a team that has played some great football the past 3 weeks. They've had 2 disheartening losses in the past couple of moments of the last 2 games that they played, but the fans have stayed with them. That offense has gotten on track. Now they got to find a way to stop people defensively.
Hand off to Philpott, and Philpott got back to the line of scrimmage and not much further.
Don, I would beckon to say that Ron Getz was close around on that play somewhere.
Yes, he was. Peter Miller came into the ball game to replace Gary Rogers, but the Riders are moving defensive backs in and out. And now they make another change with Gary Lewis coming out, as Gary Rogers is still receiving treatment on the sidelines. Austin for Alexander, incomplete. Ulmer was defending against him.
Excellent inside position by Terrell Ulmer, utilizing the sideline, forcing Ray Alexander in, not allowing him to come back inside and work for the ball.
And that is also the final play of the third quarter. And at Taylor Field with 15 minutes remaining, the Riders lead by 17. Well, it may be a little windy this afternoon at Taylor Field in Regina, but other than that, the conditions are perfect. A temperature of 14 degrees. The sun is now shining, and these fans are having a ball with the Riders leading 34-17. James, as I look around the crowd, I see a number of Rider jerseys on display, 34, 16, 23. I don't see any 78.
Well, they put that one probably in the archive somewhere.
Lou Pasaglia's field goal attempt on the first play of the fourth quarter is good. And it's a 40-yard field goal for Pasaglia, and the BC Lions now trail by 14.
Now, the true challenge starts for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They had the win the entire third quarter. They squandered one scoring opportunity when they had the ball at the 3-yard line, and the fumble occurred when Henry Newby got the hand in and deflected the ball back. Now they're going to be facing the wind. What can quarterback Tommy Burgess do to slow down this rush of the BC Lions and march his team down the field?
The assistant coach standing beside Ray Yawk is Pat Perlis, and he was the individual who was involved in the incident with Les Brown last week at BC Place Stadium. And he was also involved in an incident with this man. Perlis and Burgess got into a bit of a shouting match on the sidelines at BC Place Stadium. Pass is complete to Ray Algar. And Algar continues battling to get about 8 yards on the play.
That's one of the things you can do when you're going into the win, is that you can utilize a Ray Elgard. We get the statistics here through the first 3 quarters, and we see the passing lead. Tommy Burgess has been winning that battle along with the total yards, and it shows on the scoreboard. BC has had the time of possession, but they're trailing.
Tommy Burgess has only had 2 games this year, the first 2 games of the season, in which he has passed for over 300 yards. Hand off to Saunders. There's a flag on the play.
I think we're going to get some early movement in that Saskatchewan offensive line, but we're also going to get Barry Wilburn flagged with an unnecessary roughness, so Saskatchewan will pick up the first down on this drive. Another foolish penalty by the BC Lions.
Well, I don't think there's much doubt the way the Lions are going that they're going to break that all-time record for penalties in one season.
We have illegal procedure. 54 Saskatchewan. We also have major foul, unnecessary roughness. Number 3, British Columbia. It's first down.
Well, the 54 doesn't exist. I think he might have meant 57, Dan Payne. It's hard to miss the big guy when he moves at left offensive tackle, standing about 6'8", that 345 kilter somewhere.
But the penalty against Wilburn proves to be costly for the BC Lions, as the Riders now have a first down, 1st and 10, the ball at their own 52-yard line. touchdown, Saskatchewan.
Wonderful play call and execution by Tommy Burgess. He comes with the slip pass out in the flat to Saunders, but Paul Vida, the right offensive tackle, gets out. Watch the kick-out block he gets on Wilburn right here. And as he runs upfield, Donald Narcisse is blocking on Gordon, releases Gordon, comes inside, knocks off another defender, allowing Saunders to pick up another 10-yard. Great team play on that by off players picking up the blocks downfield.
First and 10, the ball is at the 33. It's Saunders again, and Saunders battles his way to the 26.
This is what Mike Saunders has meant to the Saskatchewan Roughriders this year, being their first 1,000-yard rusher in the past 5 seasons, but also when the game is on the line, being able to control the ball on the ground with the short pass out in the flat, and then with a straight hitter right up the middle and picking up 7 yards.
Saunders has only run for 20 yards this afternoon. A 1,000-yard runner, and he only had 2 games this year in which he carried for over 100 yards, and that was in the home-and-home doubleheader against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. On 2nd and 3, he tried to pick up the first down. It looked as though he was stopped short.
I think his all-purpose numbers, Don, are the true telling story about a Mike Saunders. His receiving, we saw him in the first half with the touchdown reception, and the reception 2 plays prior to this coming up the sideline, picking up the first down.
Going to be a long 3rd and 1. Saunders wanted to go for it, but Ray Yark has opted to send out the field goal unit.
Well, they're comfortably within McCallum's field goal range. We've seen him hit him from much further than this on the afternoon. His long on the year had been a 46-yarder coming into this game, so he's comfortably within reach of this one.
He has hit from 17 and 41 yards this afternoon. This is a 32-yard kick into the wind. It's wide. And the BC Lions are going to concede a single point. So with 11:35 remaining in the game, the Riders lead by 15.
At 15, here are a couple of head coaches who felt the wrath of the Edmonton Eskimos this season. Lions head coach Dave Ritchie was bowled over by Glenn Rogers Jr. A while back at BC Place and suffered 2 cracked ribs. They're healing now, and not many of his players have taken hits as hard as the one Yock took from Edmonton's Michael Souls at Taylor Field mid-August. Yock's knee severely damaged. It's healing now, though, Don, and mind you, now that his team leads by 15, he looks pretty limber to me.
Well, he is still having a fair bit of difficulty moving around on the sidelines. He decided not to have surgery and is hoping that the ligament will heal itself.
Illegal procedure. 53, British Columbia. First down repeated.
A procedure call against British Columbia.
Denny Chronopoulos, once again, the 4th time that he's drawn a flag from the officials this afternoon in this afternoon's game.
That's the 16th penalty called against the BC Lions.
Well, they're on their average.
Austin's sideline pass incomplete. It was intended for Yo Murphy, and Terrell Elmer was over there. He was going for the interception.
Very poorly thrown pass by Ken Austin. That ball just sailed out there, and Elmer made a great effort trying to go up and pick that one off, but it just floated over his head. Also, you notice when Ken Austin tries to throw deep outs that the ball has a hard time getting there.
And 57 remaining in the game. 35-20. The Rough Riders lead. Austin is looking for Flutie again. Terrell Elmer and Dale Joseph were in the vicinity.
Well, the pressure is coming from that Saskatchewan defensive front, but the coverage is also there in the secondary, and they have figured out what the BC Lions are doing in this series, and they've been able to make the adjustments and stop it. We see Austin sitting in the pocket, but he knows the pressure is coming, and that ball is just well over the head of Flutie, and Ulmer comes up and makes him pay for going for that effort. Gets a shot in the ribs.
And Austin has missed his last 4 pass attempts. Julio Caravata kicking with the wind for a change. And that's his best kick of the ball game. Mike Saunders takes it back at the 29. And Saunders will get no further than the 32. Brought down there by McLennan and Millington. A 51-yard kick, 3 yards on the return.
Once again, a critical series for the BC defense. Saskatchewan was able to run a lot of time off that clock with the last drive. Tommy Burgess did a good job of marching his team down the field. Now can BC answer? They need a stand. They need to get the ball back in Ken Austin's hand with more time left on the clock.
First and 10, Saskatchewan from the 32. Saunders hit by Virgil Robertson for a loss of a couple of yards.
Well, that was one of those plays that will get you some inspiration on the defensive side of things. Virgil Robertson making the big play. BC needed a defender to step up. He gets a clean shot. He comes in unblocked, puts that helmet right in the middle of the numbers, drops him in the backfield for a 2-yard loss on the play.
Second and 12 with 9:47 remaining. The time clock is the enemy now of the BC Lions. Dave Ritchie would love to see 2 and out for the Roughriders in this play. From the shotgun, Elgard makes the catch. First down, Saskatchewan. Tackled by Wilburn. Well, I may have... No, he did get a first down. I was going to say I may have prematurely given Elgard a first down, but he did, in fact, get it.
With those great eyes of yours, Don, how can you be premature at any point?
Let's not get into that one.
Now, that was a good pass route, though, by Elgard. You know, the key is that he knows where the first down sticks are, and you have to go the 10 yards. You can't run a 7-yard route. He went to 10, got 11 out of the play.
His big catch in this game was a touchdown reception. 67-yarder. Saunders cuts back inside. He finds a hole. Dodges Wilburn and takes it down to the 41. Tom Europe finally caught up with Mike Saunders.
Very valuable player.
26 yards for Mike Saunders.
Mike Saunders hits this hole. Watch the blocking up front behind Burns and Vita on the right side. He explodes through that hole. Europe gets a hand on him, but Narcisse once again gets a block downfield here on Europe, allowing Saunders to gain an extra 10 yards on the play. The receivers have been doing a great job downfield, picking up those blocks, allowing Saunders and the other receivers to pick up the extra yards. We've seen Farthing and we've seen Narcisse, along with Elgard, get the job done.
The Lions desperately need the football. The Riders are trying to keep it away from them. Narcisse made the catch, and there are 2 penalty flags on the play. One really came late.
Well, what we're going to get, Don, Burns, the right offensive tackle, was downfield. Chris Burns, the rookie, #1 draft pick out of Portland State, ineligible receiver downfield.
An interference call against the Roughriders.
They're going to call number 51, the offensive tackle, in this situation. We're getting a little rough play from Hendrickson and Jefferson out there, and BC once again will take a foolish penalty, probably offset the penalty that Saskatchewan had. That's total undiscipline and lack of character when you see what BC players constantly cost themselves. This is a team that may have only 1 loss on the season, if not for the foolish penalties that the team constantly takes. You can see the frustration, and that Jefferson's a little upset, but getting into these jawing matches is not going to help either team right here. Albert Brown and Barry Wilburn, 2 cornerbacks last year with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, former teammates sitting there discussing what's going on, you know, trying to figure it out, discussing, hey, I've had a good game.
Forward pass interference, number 83, Saskatchewan. We have major fouls offsetting against both Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Going back to line of scrimmage, 10-yard penalty, down repeated.
Well, the Riders don't have an 83. I'm not sure who the interference may have been called against. It was
Chris Burns
offensive pass interference against the Riders.
Chris Burns was downfield throwing a block prior to the reception being made, but the offsetting penalties on the other side I mean, it's hard to describe what will cause these BC players to continuously take those foolish penalties.
1st and 20 as Burgess is in the shotgun. And there's a penalty flag on the play, a time count violation against Saskatchewan.
And the flags are starting to mount. Last week, these teams combined for 28 penalties between them, and at this rate, they'll blow that one away.
We also have objectionable conduct. Saskatchewan number 32.
And with the objectionable conduct call, the ball goes back to the 44-yard line.
This is a 1st and 35, Don. With all of your wisdom and CFL games that you call, make the play call right here. Simplify it for us.
Throw deep. 1st and 35, Saskatchewan. Little swing pass intended for Saunders, incomplete.
But right now, Saskatchewan is self-destructing. They've gotten into that BC pattern of things, of taking penalties that are not called for, unnecessary. And now they're sitting here with a 2nd and 35. I mean, it's a great advantage right now for BC to be in defensively.
Well, the Riders are not unfamiliar with those pieces of red nylon decorating the turf. In 92 and 93, they had 230 penalties called against them, which is the league record. But it's going to be broken this year by BC. Saunders is dropped for a loss by Chaters, and the BC Lions should get the ball back in pretty good field position with 7:10 remaining here at Taylor Field.
Well, once again, you know, we talked earlier about football being a game of emotion and swings, and right now things seem to be swinging in way of the BC Lions. They've come out, they've made the stop defensively here against Saskatchewan. They have the wind at their back with a little over 7 minutes to go here in the 4th quarter, and you have Kent Austin in your backfield. A lot of things can happen in your favor.
And I'm sure Rider fans are somewhat apprehensive because they know all too well what Kent Austin is capable of. Jefferson takes the 3rd down kick by Matic. Jefferson with a good spin move to pick up additional yardage, and he gets it up to the 50-yard line. Tackled there by Scott Hendrickson with 6:49 remaining in the ball game. A 13-yard return by Jefferson. Although he has been used primarily as a backup, there is an unusual situation in Saskatchewan. Ray Yock, the head coach, and his son Joey Yock, a backup slot back. It's rare to have a father coaching the same professional team his son plays on.
Well, we were searching yesterday in our meeting, and we can only think of the Shulas, Don and Dave in Miami when he was a wide receiver for the Dolphins, that combination has been there before.
Sean Millington takes the swing pass for a pickup of about 2 yards. Dale Joseph came up to make the tackle on Millington, who's just a little slow in getting up, and is going to limp off to the sidelines with Ryan Hansen coming in as his replacement.
Well, Sean Millington last year was a big play back out of the backfield for the BC Lions, had over 450 yards and receptions. That role has been in a reversal this year, just over 100 yards and receptions coming into this game. So things have changed for him in the scheme of offensive things.
2nd and 8. Austin over the middle for Alexander, 1st down at the 40, and Alexander avoids a couple of would-be tacklers, and he is going to take the ball deep before being stopped by Dave Van Bellingham.
Big play by the BC Lions when needed. Kent Austin, you can't hold him in check all day long, and he's come out here in the 4th quarter with the wind at his back. Ulmer, you see right here on Alexander, easy catch, but a poor tackling effort there by Ulmer, and Alexander makes him pay because he gets loose and he's off to the races, picks up his blocking as he's weaving his way downfield before being stopped at the 17-yard line by Dave Van Bellingham.
1st and 10 for BC. 3 receivers wide right. Austin looks that way, throws that way, and then overthrows Yo Murphy.
Concern on Coach Dave Ritchie's face right there. Kent Austin that time realizing that he had an open man in the flat and he just didn't get the ball. We see his numbers there 1st and 2nd half. Only 5 completions for 67 yards here in the 2nd half. Those are not Austin-like numbers. He's known much better days here at Taylor Field.
Well, he hasn't been throwing the ball nearly as much with the BC Lions as he did when he was the starting quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Roughriders make a couple of defensive changes on 2nd and 10 as Austin started into the shotgun, then moves up behind center Ian Sinclair. At the goal line, touchdown for Mike Trevathan. Kent Austin initially looked as though he was going to go into the shotgun, must have read something and called an audible as he stepped up behind center Ian Sinclair.
What he recognized that Saskatchewan came with the blitz. They brought 7 up front. He saw Dallas Rice-Savage getting locked one-on-one against Mike Trevathan. The rookie just didn't stand a chance. Trevathan here, he'll break it off inside. He turns Rice-Savage around right here, coming across from the free safety. Touchdown the result. Big play for the BC Lions. They're right back in this ball game.
We could have another dramatic finish at Taylor Field as Lou Pasaglia adds the point after. 4:41 is the time remaining. 8 points separate these two teams. Mike Trevathan with a touchdown reception has brought the Lions to within 8 points with 4:41 left.
Well, we see Rice-Savage late getting over on Trevathan. He overran the play. Trevathan made him pay. Great extension right there, going out, getting that ball for the touchdown.
After hurting his ankle on September 11th against Toronto, Trevathan missed 3 games before returning last week against Saskatchewan. He also had a touchdown last week against the Riders. Albert Brown on the kickoff return for Saskatchewan stopped at the 30-yard line. Doug Hawking was there along with Ryan Hansen, a 19-yard return.
Well, right now, Saskatchewan is really pressed to get something going offensively. That last drive that they had, they shot themselves in the foot repeatedly with the penalties, marching backwards, ending up in a 2nd and 34, not picking up the first down. BC was able, after the punt, to come out and take it down for the touchdown. Now Tommy Burgess needs to pick up 2 to 3 first downs in this drive to calm down the BC's defense so that Saskatchewan can have a chance.
Narcisse lines up wide to the right as Burgess operates from the shotgun. He rolls to his right, looks for Saunders, and he's got him. And Tom Europe is able to bring him down, but not before Saunders gets to the BC 48.
Now that combination we've seen earlier in the first half where Europe was locked up one-on-one on Saunders, and Saunders that time comes up. Ray Elgard came down in the slot, got a block on Virgil Robinson, the linebackers, to give Tom Burgess the time to get outside. Saunders went up and out. Europe could not get there, and a 32-yard gain resulted from it.
Mike Saunders matched his jersey number as he takes the ball to the 48 of BC with 4:07 remaining. 1st and 10 Saskatchewan. Burgess moves up behind the center, gives to Saunders again. Andrew Stewart drives him back. The ball comes loose, but it was after the whistle had gone.
Well, Andrew Stewart has had a stalwart game there at defensive end. Once again, working against the rookie offensive tackle Burns, stands him up, gets the penetration. He stops Saunders in the backfield. We'll see it here at the bottom of the screen as he comes across the line of scrimmage. He meets Saunders in the backfield once again for a 1-yard loss.
The Lions go with 3 defensive linemen who are all Canadians: Stewart, Chaters, and Scrivener. They back them up with 4 very mobile import linebackers. Burgess couldn't get the ball to his first target, then went to Narcisse, and Narcisse couldn't hang on.
The ball hit him right in the numbers, Don. You know, sometimes that's a bad place. Narcisse is one of those sure-handed receivers, but he let that one get to his shoulder pads.
3:16 remaining. Still plenty of time for the BC Lions here at Taylor Field. They trail by 8.
3:16, that's an eternity in the CFL, and when you have Kent Austin, he's engineered many come-from-behind victories in this stadium right here, Taylor Field, and so you can't count the BC Lions out of this by any means.
The Riders need a big kick from Brent Matic, and he's kicking into the wind. Pressure, and almost getting to it was Donovan Wright. And Jefferson isn't going anywhere. It's Glenn Suter, and Boyko made the tackle at the 15-yard line. That was a 33-yard punt by Matic.
Field and Regina loving every moment of this as their team leads 35-27, but look out because Kent Austin's got the ball and the wind at his back. Tomorrow on the CFL on CBC, Calgary's at Hamilton. Telecast starts at 1:30 Eastern. The Stamps fancy a 5-point lead over BC if the Lions don't come back and win this one. And following The football game tomorrow, the Rothmans Limited International. It's the last major stop on the Canadian Thoroughbred racing calendar. Don?
And Scott, on the punt return by James Jefferson, Jefferson received an objectionable conduct penalty, taking the ball back to the 8-yard line. 18 penalties now against the Lions this afternoon. Trevathan was deep and wide open, but Austin didn't see him as he went to Yo Murphy on the sidelines. Trevathan didn't have anybody within 20 yards of him.
Well, you get the tunnel vision sometime, and Austin was intent on throwing that ball up the right side where Yo Murphy had gone, and you said Trevathan slipped down the seam and was wide open.
The BC Lions with 216 penalties with 3 games remaining. They'll easily break that record of Saskatchewan.
Well, at the pace they're going, they might get it today.
2nd and 10. Here comes Rogers on the blitz, and he's got him.
The second sack of the afternoon on Ken Austin, the big play that the Riders defense needed, and this crowd at Taylor Field is erupting. We get a shot. Rogers coming at the bottom of your screen, working against Rob Smith, gets the corner. Ken Austin pays.
So now the BC Lions are forced to kick it away. Rogers was shaken up earlier in the game, but he comes up with a big quarterback sack. He has his left arm taped. He may have injured his elbow earlier in the game, but he came back to play and came up with a huge play for the Roughriders. Good kick by Caravata. There's a penalty flag at the line of scrimmage as Saunders takes the punt and brings it back to the 49. A 58-yard punt, 11 yards on the return, but the penalty flag was back at the line of scrimmage.
I think we're going to get Donovan Wright, 27, holding on that play, and it won't be a bad decision if Saskatchewan decides to decline this one.
James, I think the holding penalty was against Saskatchewan. I think it was after the punt.
48. Holding. 48 Saskatchewan. Penalty applied at the point possession gain, 10 yards. First down Saskatchewan.
I'll give you one, Don.
It took place while the ball was in the air, so they move it back 10 yards from the point at where he caught it, and the Riders are at their own 40.
You cheated. You got a spotter helping you.
I won't deny that Len Antonini called that one. He's an ex-referee.
Well, I don't even want to touch that.
So the Riders are 1st and 10 at their own 40 with 2:24 remaining. The BC Lions trail by 8 points. They desperately need the football, and the Riders are trying to take time off the clock. Saunders the ball carrier, and Saunders will get about 4.
That time running up behind Dan Payne on that left side along with Hendrickson, picking up 4 yards. That's not a bad way of running some time off the clock when you have a Mike Saunders in the backfield who's a very capable ground gainer.
Payne listed at 6'7", 300 pounds. Hendrickson at 6'3", 285 pounds.
Well, I walked in there and got on the scales the other day myself, and it stopped at 300 pounds, so they couldn't get any more out of him without taking him over to the feedlot.
Looked to be some movement at the line of scrimmage as the pass intended for Dan Farthing goes incomplete.
Don, I go out on a limb on this next penalty. I'm going to say David Chaters, number 74, nose guard.
Offside. And you know what? I'll agree with you.
I might even say you my buddy now.
Offside. British Columbia. Second down repeated.
Well, we'll never know because referee Bud Steen didn't identify the guilty party.
The fans in the stadium don't know. We know. We saw.
It's 2nd and 1 for Saskatchewan with 2:02 remaining. Burgess is going to keep, and he'll get the first down. Newby tried to dive over the top of the pile, and was hoping, I'm sure, that Tom Burgess may have been standing straight up as he tried to get the first down, but Burgess wisely ducked in behind his center.
He was looking to knock a chin strap loose on that last one, but more important, this will keep the clock running and will give the Riders a new set of downs right here with 2 minutes to go in the game and leading 35-27.
1st and 10 Saskatchewan. The Riders at their own 50-yard line with 1:57 remaining. Tom Burgess, for only the 3rd time this season and not since the 2nd game of the year, has passed for over 300 yards. Saunders the ball carrier, and Saunders gets about 3. Glenn Scrivener was there to make the tackle.
You know, every time they run the ball, they're going to run about 25 seconds off the clock. You got the 20-second play clock, the running of Saunders during the play, so it's not going to give BC much time to operate with offensively if Saskatchewan fails to pick up a first down, and Tommy Burgess is utilizing that entire 20 seconds of the game clock.
If the Saskatchewan Roughriders hang on, they will vault past Sacramento into 4th place in the CFL West. Burgess is in trouble, and down he goes, back at the 38. Newby and Robertson were both coming, and I think Newby is going to get credited for the sack.
Well, they needed a play, and they came up once again, 2 successive series. We see at the bottom of your screen, Newby and Robinson coming in, and Robinson gets him around the ankle right there and trips up Tommy Burgess. He looked like he might have wanted to throw it, but had second thoughts, and better to pull that one in and just take the loss instead of risk the interception.
Well, the replay did show that it was Virgil Robertson who actually got to quarterback Tommy Burgess. Both he and Newby were in pursuit. But now with 1:16 remaining, the BC Lions are going to get the ball back, and again in pretty good field position. Good kick by Matic. Jefferson mishandled it. It's still loose. The Riders have got it. Dave Van Bellingham, who has been such a key player on special teams this year, scoops up the loose ball.
Only it can happen in Regina and Taylor Field. The Saskatchewan Roughriders look to be rewarded with a great victory here at home. We'll see Jefferson mishandle the ball, trying to run, but watch him bat the ball at the last moment here, trying to get it outside, but Ron Getz knocks him free of the ball. Dave Van Bellingham hustling downfield, makes the recovery at the 24. Dave Ritchie, disgusted here, wondering what could he do to get his team out of the doldrums that they've been in. Last week, fortunately enough, they escaped at BC Place with a last-second victory when the field goal attempt went awry on Saskatchewan when the ball was mishandled. They're not going to get it this afternoon.
Mike Saunders runs into the arms of Henry Newby. Newby trying to pull the ball away from him, and Saunders is hanging on for dear life.
Well, it's not a matter of picking up yardage right now. It's just a matter of preserving a victory, and Mike Saunders is not going to take any chances.
And the BC Lions have already used up their timeout, so they can't stop the clock.
And that's what they did prior to the punt on that last sequence. But right now, Tommy Burgess, you wonder if they didn't pick up the first down, would they elect to run the ball on third down also, because it gives BC that long field that they have to work against.
Hand off to Saunders, and Saunders is only going to get about another yard.
Well, you have 39 seconds to go in the game, Don. They're sending on the field goal team. In this scenario here, not BC, but Saskatchewan has had 2 field goals blocked this year. They've had 3 tipped at the line of scrimmage. They've had 7 punts blocked. They've had 12 kicks that have not done what they're supposed to do. You would be much better off leaving your offense on the field, running a play, running it down to 15 seconds left in the game, not taking a chance, and giving BC 84 yards of field to work with in 10 seconds.
Anything bad happened to them in their kicking game? Paul McCallum missed his last field goal attempt from a similar distance. This one is good. A 31-yarder for Paul McCallum, and with 15 seconds remaining, the Roughriders will temporarily vault past Sacramento into 4th place in the West.
And so much for my analogy.
Sacramento plays in Shreveport tomorrow afternoon. And there are a lot of people who would probably suggest that that's a given, in that Sacramento has a record of 7-6-1, and Shreveport is winless through 14.
Well, you look at this BC Lion offense that averaged 43 points a game over the first 8 games of the season, and the last 6 coming into today's contest had only been averaging 21 points a game. They've been struggling as of late. They need a jump start, and they didn't get it this afternoon at Taylor Field. They still struggled. The Saskatchewan Roughriders came up with the big plays defensively and held Kent Austin and his offense in check.
The BC Lions have one more road game, and that will be next Saturday in Baltimore, and we'll have that game for you on CBC television. Then they're at home for 2 against Las Vegas and Calgary. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are at home next week against Las Vegas. Then they go on the road for 2 against Ottawa and Hamilton. So the Saskatchewan Roughriders, in the return engagement of the home-and-home series against the BC Lions, score a 38-27 victory, and in the process vault past Sacramento into 4th place in the West. And the BC Lions remain in 2nd place, 3 points behind Calgary, but only 1 up on Edmonton.
Well, BC needs to go back and find their lost running game. Corey Philpott was such a valuable member of their offense in the first 10 games of the season, and they've struggled with the running game since then and the passing game. They need to find a way to incorporate their wideouts in their system more than what they've done.
And to the delight of the fans at Taylor Field, Kent Austin's return is ruined by a Rider victory. Scott?
And ruined in large part, Don, by the effort of Tom Burgess. I thought this was going to turn into a telethon today with all the penalties we had, but all the talk, Tom, was about Kent Austin's return to Taylor Field. Did that motivate you to try and steal the show?
No. no, I just want to win. That was a big win for us.
James told me to tell you hello.
James Jefferson comes by to congratulate Tom Burgess. Tom, let me ask you this. What you guys did in the 4th quarter may have solved a lot of your problems, because prior to today, you guys had no end of trouble trying to score points in the 2nd half and the 4th quarter.
Well, it's early in the season. It was the 1st half. Now it's been the 2nd half, but I think we put a complete game. Guys are making big plays all over the field. You know, that was a great team win right there, and we really needed it.
No question you needed this win very badly. Okay, Tom, thanks for your time. Congratulations. Taylor Field this afternoon, just the kind of party the Riders and their fans plan to celebrate Kent Austin's homecoming. Saskatchewan hands BC a 38-27 loss. All day in Regina, just the kind the Riders like. They call it home field advantage, and it paid off in a win that keeps Saskatchewan